العالمين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم فقهنا في دينك وارزقنا العمل بما نتعلم واجعل ما نقوم به خالصا لوجهك وتقبله منا يا رب العالمين. O Allah, we have no knowledge except for what you have taught us, and indeed you are the all-knowing. O Allah, teach us what is beneficial, and bless us to benefit with what you have taught us, and increase us in knowledge. O Allah, there's nothing easy except for what you have made easy for us, and indeed you are the one who makes every hardship easy for us, so make every hardship easy for us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. O Allah, bless us with the understanding of this deen, and bless us to be sincere in seeking the knowledge, and bless us to implement this deen for your sake. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. This is our fourth class in the Fiqh of Salah course, and in this class we'll be taking the different types of prayers and how to perform different types of prayers. How does a traveler pray? How do we pray Jum'ah? How do we pray Eid? How do we pray Janazah? And so on and so forth, inshallah. Any questions from previous classes? Could you do that? Okay, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sure, yeah.
There was one we were talking about following and catching the congregation. I believe you said you have to join the congregation before the Taslim.
Yes.
You must join for the Rak'ah and join the prayer before the Imam rises from Ruku.
Yes.
But what if you enter the Salah before after the Imam rises from the Ruku?
Then you miss out on that rak'ah. You have to repeat that rak'ah.
Then you repeat that rak'ah.
Yes.
Okay, so you join from wherever the Imam is, but then you just repeat.
Yes. Okay. Yes. It is as if you joined him in sujood.
Okay.
Right. Oh yeah. Sure.
You discussed the part where the intention of your salah based on the Imam and the person following. If the Imam is praying lower and you're praying also in intention of lower with him, and the two intentions are both fard, so it's alright to do that.
Yeah.
If it's he's praying sunnah and you're praying fard, like tarawih, and you're praying isha, that one you said, I don't remember.
Yeah, so the Hanbalis say that you can pray. There are other valid opinions that say that's okay, but the Hanbalis say that it's not okay because they consider the niyyah of the Imam to be inferior, and the niyyah of the person for the obligatory prayer to be superior. So they say a superior niyyah cannot follow an inferior niyyah.
So you can't pray Isha?
You know, that's what the Hanbalis say. But I would, if a person comes to the masjid, it's okay for him to pray because there's a very strong difference of opinion. But academically, what we're learning over here, we will say that the Hanbalis say that it's not allowed. Right? A person should be careful. He shouldn't intentionally do that. You should try to get to the Salah when the Isha is being prayed and pray Isha with the Imam and then join him in Tarawih. Okay?
So, that, since if you're following the Hanbali school of thought of not following the Tarawih prayer for Isha, are you not supposed to have two congregations praying at the same time in the masjid?
Yeah, so they say that but it's okay with a sunnah. You're not having a different congregation, you're just praying by yourself.
Okay, so you can't pray.
No, you can't do a congregation. You can't have two congregations in the masjid.
So they're praying Tarawih, you can't, if you and your friend come.
No. You should wait. You should wait. Two congregation is kind of problematic.
But then you said that praying congregation is probably.
So you can either pray with him Tarawih and then later on pray Isha. Do you get it? No, that's also problematic because you have to pray Tarawih after Isha. So either you can pray at home before you come or pray on the side and then join the Imam. This could be a valid excuse for not. Yeah, it could be an excuse. Good question. Any other questions? Moving on. Bismillah. Alright, the first prayer we have is the prayer of the traveler. When does a person shorten his prayers? Is shortening recommended? Is combining recommended? And so on and so forth. Okay, now what are the exceptions or the permits a traveler is given? What can a traveler do that a resident can't? Anyone?
You can shorten.
He can shorten, combine. What else? What else is not fast? I don't know if no, Shaykh Arsan didn't go over this. Okay. What else?
You can do masah.
Yes, you can do. You can wipe over your socks for 3 days and 3 nights. Is Shaykh Arsan taught it?
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Oh yeah, you guys finished over here. Maryam didn't finish it. Okay. What else? There's one more. It's regarded to praying. There are actually 2 more. We mentioned one of them. Yeah, but sunnah in general, we're talking about obligations mostly, okay? So, there are 2 more things. We talked about one of them in the first class. Facing the Qibla. For a sunnah prayer, the person who's traveling and he's moving while he's traveling, he doesn't have to face the Qibla for a sunnah prayer, right? And also Jummah, he's not obligated to pray Jummah, right? We'll come to Jummah inshallah, we have a whole slide. So these are a few permits or exceptions or obligations the traveler is exempted from. Okay, what kind of prayer is can the traveler combine? What kind of prayer can he shorten? What kind of traveler can he do all these things, right? What kind of traveler is allowed to combine and shorten? The first condition is that he has to travel for over 60 miles. He has to travel for over 60 miles. Now we'll come on this a bit. We'll elaborate a bit on this. So 60 miles, from where do you start measuring the 60 miles? Is it from your house or is it from the end of the city? Right? So the fuqaha say it's from the end of the city. So where the city ends, that's when you start measuring your 60 miles. And you measure it until the beginning of the next city, not to your destination in your other city, to the beginning of the other city. So for example, we're in Houston now, right? So we would say if a person is traveling to Dallas, Dallas is over 60 miles, right? We would say you would start measuring your 60 miles from Conroe, right? Conroe is the last neighborhood in Houston. So once Conroe ends, we start measuring our 60 miles, and we stop as soon as Dallas starts. As soon as Dallas starts, we measure the gap between Dallas and Houston, and we say if it's over 60 miles, he is allowed to shorten his prayers. If it's less than 60 miles, he is not allowed to shorten his prayers. That's for all of the permits that we mentioned before, in terms of breaking your fast, in terms of Jummah not being obligated, all of them. These conditions are for all of these exceptions. Do you get that? Any questions about this? Yeah.
So you said 60 miles from the end of the city.
Yeah.
But what constitutes the end of the city? So if you go to, let's say, Medina as an example.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Is that considered in Medina or is that considered outside?
Whatever people consider the end of the city. So over here the fuqaha say that whatever people say. So what they say is, they also say this. They say when the last building ends. When you have the last building where people live, not an abandoned building, where the last house or home or a building exists where people live in, that the end of that is where you start measuring. Do you get that? So let's say there's a neighborhood at the end of Conroe, but after that there are a few homes, but no one lives there. They're abandoned homes. So you don't count those. You start from the last building where people actually live in. Clear? Another thing about this is, yes, a person can't start using the exemptions or the exceptions or the permits until he leaves the city, until he leaves the last building or the last home, right? We said from where he starts measuring until he, as soon as he leaves that part, that's when he can break his fast. That's when he can start shortening prayers. Let's say a person lives in the south in Pearland, for example, right? And he's traveling to Dallas. He will have to go through the entire city of Houston, right, to get to the other side. But for him, he can't start combining his prayers until he leaves Conroe. So let's say he's going through Houston and the time of Dhuhr comes. He has to pray Dhuhr on the time. He can't combine it. He can't shorten it until he leaves the city. Let's say he's fasting. He can't break his fast until he leaves Conroe. Was that clear? Any questions about the 60 miles?
Where's the 60 miles come
The Prophet ﷺ said that he, the Prophet ﷺ combined when he traveled for, they had a measurement back in the day and they translated that into being 60 miles. They converted that into 60 miles.
Is there a difference in opinion on 60 miles?
Yes, there's a lot of difference of opinions. But this is the chosen opinion that majority of the schools of thought go with.
All of them?
Majority, I didn't say all. So even in the Hanbali school of thought, there's a difference of opinion. Some say 80 miles, some say 90 miles, some say 50 miles. But the opinion that's chosen is 60 miles. Yeah.
So you have to know, because you can, like you are allowed as a traveler as soon as you leave your city. So you need to measure the distance before you go, because how would you know that it will be like 60 miles before you get to it?
You can look it up, I think, on Google.
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to know that before.
Yes. Any other questions about 60 miles? Sure.
So for Houston, you said Conroe is the limit.
Yeah.
Is there any other city that's, because obviously it's a circle, right?
Yeah, so the only example I know is for Dallas, that Conroe. What if we go west? What's the last city? If we go to Galveston, all right, what's the last city? I think there's something after Pearland. So any city where people live, it's a civilized city, right?
The whole way there, people are living.
No, I think there's empty land between.
There's cities. Houston is, in a way, so like, if I go to Humble, I don't consider myself in Houston anymore. I consider myself in Humble.
You don't consider yourself in Houston? But what do people of Houston consider themselves in? Yeah, so whatever people of Houston consider that's the end of the city, that's where it starts. Do you get that?
Like Baytown, I wouldn't consider that Houston.
Is it considered by the city? If someone was from Baytown and they left Houston, they went to Dallas, for example, and someone asked them, where are you from? What would they say?
I say I'm from Sugarland. I don't say I'm from Houston.
Yeah, Sugarland.
What if you were outside the U.S. and someone asked you, where are you from, Texas?
I'd say Houston.
That's problematic for me as well. I don't have a clear answer for that right now. That's why I try to keep it a bit general.
I don't want to tell them that because they wouldn't know what Sugarland is.
What if we were in New York?
I'll tell them Sugarland.
People don't know Sugarland in New York.
I know, but then I just explained it because Sugarland's a cool name.
What if you were from Humble? Would you say you're from Humble?
I don't know, I'm not.
Khair, inshallah. Whatever people consider to be the city, that's what's considered to be the city.
So it's not set in stone? Like
No. I said Conroe because that's what I've been told, that Conroe is the last city when you leave for Dallas. Any other questions?
So let's say the time of Dhuhr comes while you're in the city that you're going to leave, but you'll reach the next city and still leave Dhuhr time. So can you wait till you reach?
No. So as soon as the time of Dhuhr starts, you have to pray 4. You can't shorten even if you leave the city before the time ends. Similarly, if the time of Dhuhr starts while you're traveling and you reach back home before the time of Dhuhr ends, you have to pray 4 rakahs. You can't shorten.
So the Pearland, all those, whether they are called the neighborhood or they are different cities, and
So that's something I've been discussing with a few people. Are they considered to be cities or are they considered to be neighborhoods, right? Because there is some kind of valid perspective that they are considered to be cities, and there is a valid perspective that they're considered to be neighborhoods from Houston. So it's something that depends on what people consider. If people tomorrow say that no, we don't consider Pearland and Sugarland from Houston, it's outside of Houston, it has nothing to do with Houston, then we say they're separate cities.
But that can you go with the legal things like Pearland has its own.
Yeah, so they say even zip codes, or whenever you mail something, you don't say Houston when you're mailing something to Pearland, you say Pearland. But that's not a factor that determines whether something is or not from a city. It's something that's a discussion has been going on, so I don't have a clear answer at the moment. But I would be careful. I would rather not keep that. I would keep those in Houston until someone comes and gives a clear answer. You had a question? Was that clear? Kind of, right? Okay, so another issue is that a person, if the time of Dhuhr comes in and he's in the city and he leaves the city before the time of Dhuhr ends, he still has to pray 4 rakahs. He can't combine, he can't shorten.
Because the time came in while
Yes, good point. That's why, because the time came in when he was in the city. The opposite, let's say a person was coming back from Dallas and he was outside of Houston when the time of Dhuhr came in, but he didn't pray. He came back home and then he wanted to pray. Then we also say that he has to pray 4 rakahs, right? Let me give another example. A person is coming back from Dallas and the time of Dhuhr starts. He stops his car and he prays Dhuhr and Asr, combine and shorten, right? And he knows for sure that he'll make it to Houston before the time of Dhuhr ends, let alone the time of Asr, right? He knows for sure that the time of Dhuhr will not end before he reaches Houston. Is that allowed? Yes, that is allowed. And when he comes back, he does not have to pray Dhuhr and Asr. Let's say a person is coming back from Dallas and the time of Dhuhr passes by, the time of Asr starts, and he does not stop to combine his shorten prayers. He's like, I'm going to go home and pray. He can come home, he can combine his prayers then, but he can't shorten them. Was that clear? We have 4 scenarios. You want me to repeat those scenarios? Okay. The first scenario is when a person is in the city, he's in the city, he hasn't left, and the time of Dhuhr started. Let's say the time of Dhuhr starts at 12:30. Right? Let's put the time of Dhuhr at 12:30. He leaves his home at 12:30, or he left his home at 12:15, and before he left the city, it was 12:30. So the time of Dhuhr came in while he was in Houston, right? While he was in Houston. Then he was on his way to Dallas, and then in the middle of the road, he's like, I want to, take a pit stop, freshen up, and I want to pray. So we tell him, you have to pray 4 rakahs. And you can combine Asr. You cannot combine Asr, right? You have to pray 4 rakahs and as if you were a resident. Got that?
Why did you combine Asr?
Because we said that the time of Dhuhr came in while he was...
Yeah, but not Asr time, right? He's traveling, not Asr time.
No, he has to pray before Asr time starts.
Oh.
Yes. He can't let the time finish. Right? He has to pray before the time of Dhuhr ends. The time of Asr starts. When does the time of Dhuhr end? No. One time, right? When your shadow equals your length, one time, right? So we say that if the time of Dhuhr came in while he was in the city, then he has to pray 4 rakahs. He cannot delay the prayers, he cannot combine, he cannot shorten, right? Was this scenario clear?
Yes.
Second scenario, he's from Houston and he left to Dallas and he's coming back from Dallas, right? And the time of Dhuhr is what we said, 12:30, right? He's on his way, and in the middle of the way, it's 12:30. He hasn't entered the city yet. The time of Dhuhr comes in 12:30. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna wait until I go home. I'm gonna pray at home. He comes home. He enters Houston. He goes home. How many rakahs does he have to pray? 4. He can't shorten. He can't combine, because as soon as he enters the city, he has lost all the exceptions. He can no longer use the exceptions or the permits that are for the traveler, because he's no longer a traveler.
Can you repeat the scenario?
Let's say a person is from Houston, he's an Houstonian, and he goes to Dallas. He's coming back from Dallas, right? And on the way, the time of Dhuhr comes in. Was that clear, Ravzan? The time of Dhuhr comes in. And he does not pray at that time. If he prays at that time, yes, he can shorten and combine. But he waits until he enters Houston. As soon as he enters Houston, he has lost all the permits for a traveler. Meaning he is dealt in Sharia as if he is a resident. He will have to pray 4 rakahs. Was that clear? Okay, third scenario, sorry. You have a person traveling. He's coming back from Houston. Right? He's coming back from Houston, and he's coming back from Dallas. He's coming back from Dallas, and the time of Dhuhr comes in, right? So he stops his car, and he knows for sure that he will make it to Houston before the time of Dhuhr ends. Let's say the time of Asr is at 4 p.m., right? Let's say the time of Dhuhr is the time of Asr is at 4 p.m. He is on his way back from Dallas, and the time of Dhuhr comes in at 12:30. He knows for sure that he will be home at 3 p.m. right? Before the time of Dhuhr ends and before the time of Asr starts. And he's like, no, you know what? I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I want to shorten and combine my prayers. So he shortens his Dhuhr and he combines it with Asr, right? Even though he knows for sure that he will enter Houston before the time of Asr even starts, right? We say it's okay for him to do that. He has the permissibility to do that. So if he prays his Dhuhr and Asr combined at that time and he enters Houston, he does not have to repeat his Asr. Was that clear? Yes. Right? Fourth scenario. A person is coming back from Dallas now, right? And the time of Dhuhr comes in. And he leaves Dallas at 12:30, right? The time of Dhuhr ends while he is traveling. He hasn't entered Houston and 4 p.m. Comes through, right? The time of Asr comes. You get it? Okay. The fourth scenario? Yes. Okay, let's say he leaves Dallas at 12:30. Now what time has come in? The time of Dhuhr, right? The time of Dhuhr has come in when he left Dallas, right? And while he was traveling, before he entered Houston, the time of Asr came in. Right? And he's like, no, I'll go home and I'll pray. If he goes home, he has the option of combining, because that's the only option he has, but he can't shorten his prayers. Was that clear? Rizwan? So if a person leaves Dallas and he comes to Houston and he hasn't prayed neither Dhuhr or Asr, he can pray Dhuhr and Asr combined, but he can't shorten. Yes.
So you can combine both?
Yes, because and you didn't pray. And you came to Houston, you can combine, you can pray Dhuhr and Asr, but you can't shorten them anymore.
Why wouldn't the rules of the resident apply here because you're now in Houston?
Because you have to combine them because you've missed out on
so would you pray for Dhuhr and for Asr?
Yes, you would. So we said combine but no shortening.
Oh, okay.
You have to combine because you have to.
Yeah, there's no other option. Yeah, you have to combine. There is a fifth scenario. A person is coming back from Dallas, and the time of Dhuhr comes in. With me, Rizwan? The time of Dhuhr comes in. Rizwan with me? He's coming back from Dallas, and the time of Dhuhr comes in, right? And before he enters Houston, he prays Dhuhr. He doesn't pray Asr. And he enters Houston, he has to pray for Asr. When the time of Asr comes in, he has to pray the entire 4 rakahs. Do you get that? That's just normal, right? But that's just to make up all the scenarios. Yes. Yes. Yes, we'll come to that in a minute, inshallah. Was the 60 miles and praying on the way clear? Complicated? A bit?
Just don't go for travel.
No.
You have to pray Dhuhr and Asr combined, but you pray both at the time of Asr. Is that correct? Or are you allowed to pray Asr even though it's not the Asr at the time of Dhuhr?
So if you have the permissibility of combining and shortening, the time of Dhuhr and Asr become one time. So you can pray at the beginning of that time or you can pray at the end of that time. So when we took the first class, I don't know if you were here, the first class when we mentioned the timings of every prayer, we said that the time of Dhuhr starts when the sun passes its zenith, right? And the time of Asr ends when the length of an object equals twice its length, right? So we say the time of a person who's traveling is from when the sun passes its zenith, from the beginning of Dhuhr till the end of Asr. That's the time for the traveler. Okay.
What's the intention when you're traveling? Is it like qada or?
No, it's ada. You don't do qada. It's ada. So it's as if you're praying on time. So you have qada and you have ada. Qada is when you pray after the time. Ada is when you're praying in the prescribed time. Yes, but there's a very good point related to that let's say a person wants to combine his prayers in the latter time, in the time of Asr, right? He wants to pray Dhuhr and Asr at the Asr time. He has to make the intention of combining before the time of Dhuhr ends. Do you get that? So he's combining his Dhuhr and Asr in the latter time, in the time of Asr, right? He has to make the intention of combining and shortening before the time of Dhuhr ends. He can't be like he's missing out on Dhuhr and he's like, I missed out on Dhuhr, now I'm going to combine and shorten. That doesn't work that way. He has to make the intention before the time of the first prayer ends. Similarly for Maghrib and Isha. He has to make the intention of combining and shortening Maghrib and Isha before the time of Maghrib ends. Was that clear?
He's saying he has to make the intention before the Dhuhr time ends. So just make the intention in your heart and then combine it when you...
Yeah. So he can just make the intention that he's going to combine and shorten his prayers in general.
Maybe he just forgot. Like Dhuhr time comes, Dhuhr time leaves, and then he was like, oh man, I need to pray Dhuhr. I'll pray with Asr now.
So it is as if he missed that prayer. No, he can shorten his prayers, but he will be as if he missed out on that prayer. He's praying qada. He's not praying ada anymore.
Is it sinful?
If he intentionally did that, yes.
Not intentional.
If he had the intention that he's going to pray on time, he forgot, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives everything that you forget. Alright? Moving on. The next condition. The reason the traveler is traveling is for a permissible reason. The purpose for his travel is something permissible. So let's say a person is traveling to engage in a riba-filled contract, business deal, right? It's filled with riba or it's filled with something haram. We say your purpose to travel is haram, right? So therefore you cannot use any of the permits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given for a traveler, because it is haram for you to travel in the first place. So therefore you have no excuse to use the permits. A person is traveling for anything haram, right? For anything haram, and he is not allowed to use the permits for a traveler. Is permits for a traveler a good word? Or the exceptions of a traveler? Exemptions? Exemptions are better? Exemptions, permits?
I think they both are.
Okay, we'll use permits.
Are these conditions to make you a traveler?
Yes, the conditions that make you eligible to use the permits of a traveler. For anything, even for fasting. Was that clear? Okay, now you have an issue. Let's say a person travels for the intention of using these permits. Right? It happens in Ramadan. Let's say a person travels with the intention that he wants to break his fast. He has no other reason to travel except that he wants to break his fast. Right? For him it is also haram to use. He is not allowed to use the permits of a traveler. These permits were given as a facility for people who are traveling to make their travel much more easier. But this person has no purpose to travel except for you to use the permits, then he is not allowed to use the permits. Was that clear?
Same thing for Salah, right?
For Salah, Siyam, all of them, right? The third condition. Doesn't intend to live more than 4 days. Doesn't intend to live more than 4 days. We'll come to that. Doesn't intend to live with more than 4 days. All right. Now this is a bit complicated, so just keep focused really. A person has three situations, right? Either he knows for sure that he will stay at his destination for more than 4 days. He knows for sure. He books his hotel for 5, 6, 7, 8 days, right? That is a person who knows for sure that he is living more than 4 days at his destination, right? It is very important that we mention that he was living at his destination for more than 4 days, right? Second is, a person knows for sure that he's living less than 4 days at his destination. Right? Third situation is a person doesn't know how long he will stay. Right? He's going to finish some paperwork. He doesn't know how long will it take. Right? So you have these three situations. The first situation is when a person knows for sure that he will live more than 4 days at that place. He is not allowed to use the permits of a traveler. Was that clear? Let me finish these, all right? If you have any questions about this, yes.
No, you said it's clear. I was going to say no, it's not.
Okay, so if a person intends to live, let's say he's going to Dallas, right? We'll keep using the example of Dallas. He's going to Dallas and he's going to live there for more than 4 days, right? He's going to live there for more than 4 days. So let's say, so the fuqaha say that he's going to pray more than 20 prayers, That's how they gauge it. He's going to pray more than 20 prayers. So he reaches Dallas at the time of let's say he reaches Dallas at 5 a.m. in the morning, right? He counts his 4 days from that 5 a.m. So there's another point, that his time to travel is not included. So let's say a person is traveling from Houston to New York. How long does it take to drive to New York? Approximately a day, right? If you're driving non-stop from Houston to New York, it will take you approximately a day. That is not included in the 4 days. What is included is how long you will spend at your destination. So let's say a person is going for a four-day trip to New York, but it will take him a day to travel and a day to come back, and he only spend 2 days. He is not included in this, right? He has the permission to shorten and combine and use all the permits of a traveler. Was that clear? So the first situation we said is that a person is living at their destination for more than 4 days, then he is not allowed to use the permits of a traveler. Was the 4 days clear? Second, a person is for sure living less than 4 days at his destination. He's living for sure less than 4 days, right? So for him, it is okay for him to use the permits of a traveler. Coming back to the first scenario, a person knows that he's going to live more than 4 days. He can shorten his prayers even for the first 4 days. It is not that his permit runs out after 4 days. No, he can, as soon as he reaches, he is considered to be a resident. He has to pray every prayer time. He has to go for Jummah. He can't wipe over his socks for more than one day and night. He can't break his fast anymore, and so on and so forth. All right? Was that clear? Second scenario was, the person is living at his destination for less than 4 days. He's living at his destination for less than 4 days. We tell him that it is okay for you to use the permits of a traveler. Right? The third situation where the person does not know how long will he stay. Let's say he's going to follow up on some paperwork, and they tell him to come tomorrow. He misses out on some papers, and it takes him a week. Right? It ends up taking a week from his time. We say it's okay for him to also use the permit of the travelers. Was that clear? Any questions about this?
You said less than 4 days and equal to 4 days, right? If you're planning on staying in one place for 4 days.
Yeah, so if it's 4 days, you're okay. So this is the fuqaha say that you're not praying more than 20 prayers.
For the last one, you said if he doesn't know how long, he takes more than like a week. But what if it takes him just 2 days and he comes back? He did not know when he was going to the destination.
Yeah, so he was combining and shortening his prayers he was praying as a resident for 2 days, and then his trip got short. He didn't know that.
So
he can't make up for something gone.
No, he doesn't know how long he'll be there.
Okay.
But it just takes him 2 days. So for those 2 days, would he be a traveler?
Yes. He doesn't know how long he'll stay.
Yeah.
Even if he stays for a month, he's okay.
Or even if he stays for less than 4 days, it's okay.
Yeah, less than 4 days, regardless, he's okay. But if he doesn't know and he stays for a month, that's fine. And the proof for that is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he went to Mecca, I think, and he stayed for more than 4 days, he did not shorten and combine his prayers. And Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, once he was at an expedition, and he was waiting at the gates of the other city, and he waited for a month, and he shortened and combined his prayers, because he didn't know how long will it take for them to enter the city. Was that clear?
Are there any exceptions to the first situation?
60 miles? Oh,
The first, if you're staying for more than 4 days. Is it across the board? You can't, no matter what happens, you can't combine, you can't take the permits.
what scenario would come up?
Someone's traveling. Let's say someone's traveling and they have multiple destinations.
Yeah, so at one destination if they're living at more than 4 days. So good point. So let's say a person is traveling from here to New York, right? He's going to live in New York for 5 days, right? And it's going to take him a day to get to New York and a day to come back. How many days is that? He's going to live in 7 days. So a day to go and a day to come back, and he's going to live in New York for 5 days, right? So we tell him that you can use the permits of a traveler while you are going to New York, right? On your way to New York, you are considered a traveler. As soon as you reach New York, you are no longer a traveler. Was that clear? But let's say a person is going he wants to visit multiple cities in the East Coast. He goes from New York to New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, all those cities. So, and he's not spending more than 4 days in each of these cities, then we tell him it's okay. You can use a permit of a traveler because you're not staying at your destination for more than 4 days. Is that clear?
Are there exceptions for like home? So for me, I live in Beaumont, but my parents live in Houston.
Yeah.
And so I'm here now for the summer, and so I'm praying regularly, but they're both kind of my home. So if I go back to Beaumont for a weekend.
Yeah, so if a person has multiple homes where he's considered to be a resident in both of them, then he's considered to be a resident. He can't shorten and combine his prayers, even if it's for a short time, because he is considered to be a resident. He has a home, he has a place to live. But if it's like a summer home, then that's different, right? But if it's some people like work in two places or live in two homes, right? They could live in Dallas and Houston. They spend 3 days of the week over here and 3 days of the week over there. They're considered residents of both cities. So that's fine. So you can use the traveler's permit.
If you're a student and you live in a dorm, you go back to your parents' house on the weekend. You're there for 2 days, but that's not.
So you're
that's not your home, right? Like your home is your dorm. Visiting your parents.
So whatever you consider as home. If you consider your dorm as home and you don't consider your parents' house as home, but I would think that that's kind of. People consider their parents' homes to be their home, and not the dorm to be their home.
No, I had it. I consider dorm to be home, and so whenever I'm at home,
Okay, if you think that's you're traveling over there, then you can combine affairs for less than 4 days.
So if you're going to New York and you're staying there for 5 days, but you are planning on traveling around New York, so like different areas in New York, which is like Manhattan, Queens. And you don't plan on staying in the same place.
Same issue with Houston, Sugarland, Pearland.
So these things are like actual manipulations, like they're cities and they have lines drawn out. Lines.
So for New York, it's much more easier for me to say that that's considered an entire city, because they don't even consider that to be cities. They consider them to be boroughs.
But we consider these to be cities. Like
That's the thing. Houston considers Sugarland as a city. They consider Pearland as a city, and they consider Humble as a city. But New York considers Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, all these as boroughs. They don't even consider them to be cities. So I don't know.
So you're saying it's harder to tell than
I feel people considered Houston everything, like Pearland, Sugarland, everything is in Houston.
Is it going worse? Because I don't consider Humble my city.
Then you have the issue of connecting cities.
Connected.
Yes, if you have two cities that are connected. Yeah. You have that in Europe a lot. You have countries that are connected.
So is it just what I feel like?
So many fuqaha go with the opinion that if there are two cities connected, you can't start shortening your prayers until you leave that city.
Even the connected city?
Yeah, but I find that kind of hard. I find that either you leave your city, even if even if the next city is civilized and their buildings connected, or you leave the last building in where you live. Do you get that? You either leave the geographical boundaries of your city, or you leave the last building of your city. Either one comes first, you are considered to be out of the city. That's what I feel is much more convenient and combining of all the opinions. I could be wrong.
So these are when you travel, and all these are when you are a traveler. But can you also pray as a resident, even though?
Yes, you can. You can. So if a person prays he's traveler and he has the permits of a traveler and he doesn't want to use them, then it's okay. But with for the Hanbali school of thought and other schools of thought, they say it's recommended for him to use these permits, because it is as a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him to ease in his travel. So take the gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Take the gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Can you take some permits and leave some permits? Like
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
I have a question.
Sure.
Based on parents' home, my situation like that, Abdullah, I have that home still back home, but my parents are not there. My brother is living in there. So if I go there for a month's time, what's the ruling process?
So we said if it's more than 4 days, you can't be a traveler. You're not considered to be a traveler.
So it will be full salah.
G.
Okay, otherwise, if I'm living 4 days in one brother's house, 3 days in one place, and 2 days, so
In one city or in multiple cities? Cities, one city or multiple
Multiple cities.
multiple cities.
So I'm going for 2 days to one brother, 3 days to other brother. But that house where my brother, my parents' home, I'm going for 2 days.
Do you consider that to be home?
Not the same home anymore.
But do you still consider that you're back home? Then I would not use this travel. Questions about this? Let's finish all the questions you guys have traveling, because this is the only slide we have for traveling. Any questions you have?
We were talking about the New York example. If you're traveling from here to New York, then the permits of the traveler apply. But once you arrive, you're there for more than 4 days, then you pray as a resident. But then when you're coming back, do the rules of the traveler still apply?
Yes, so they say there's a difference between the destination and the way to your destination. On the way to your destination, you're always considered as a traveler, even if it's for like 10 days. You're traveling for 10 days, it's considered your travel. But if you're living at your destination for more than 4 days, then you're considered to be a resident.
Okay, so you said it's recommended to shorten prayers and
Combined.
What we can combine for travel. If
Yeah.
You have a permit. Does that mean you're also recommended not to pray the sunnahs, or?
The Prophet ﷺ didn't pray his sunnahs when he would travel. He would only pray Fajr and Witr. The Fajr sunnahs and the Witr. He didn't pray any other sunnah.
So you shouldn't be praying any other sunnahs?
You get rewarded for that. The Prophet ﷺ said that when a person travels, he gets a reward as if he was a resident. Meaning whatever he did as a resident. So let's say a person would pray at night when he was a resident. But when he's traveling, he can't pray at night. He gets a reward as if he was praying at night. Clear? In Hajj, people are considered to be travelers because the Prophet ﷺ, yeah. So when you go for Hajj, you will combine your prayers, but you won't shorten them. In Mina, that's an exception for Hajj. When you go to Mina, so you're going on the 2nd or the 1st of Dhul Hijjah. August. So I think you're going like 5 days before the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, right? So you're going to be in Mecca for like 4 days, right? And then you go to Mina. When you go to Mina, when you get into your ihram, you will combine your prayers, but you won't shorten them. Your group leader will tell you.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, so Hajj has an exception. There's an exception.
There's different rules for
Yeah, because of the hardship of Hajj. So even like combining prayers is much more general than shortening prayers. Like there are situations where you can combine your prayers, but you can't shorten your prayers. Let's say a person is sick, right? And he can't perform wudu all the time. We tell him it's okay for you to combine your prayers, but you can't shorten them. Similarly, a person who is, if he's in a situation where he's very scared, right? He's in a very fearful situation that he has to be aware of his surroundings. We tell him it's okay for you to combine your prayers, but you can't shorten your prayers. You get that?
Yeah. What about if you go to Umrah?
Umrah, no. If you're going less than 4 days, yes.
You're going for like 2 weeks. You're not a traveler?
No. But like 2 weeks, you're spending all 2 weeks in Mecca or Medina, or like separating. So you're more than 4 days. Pray in the masjid. You're going to be praying in the masjid anyway. No, this is the majority opinion. For majority of schools of thought, yes. That's 4 days. There are other opinions, but this is the majority of the opinion. There are opinions that say that as long as you consider yourself a traveler, it doesn't matter. You're living for 2 months, then you're still considered to be a traveler. That's another opinion. That's another opinion within the school of the Hanbali school of thought.
What did 4 days come from? The Prophet say 4 days?
No, so Prophet ﷺ, whenever he traveled for more, I can't remember the exact dalil. So I think the Prophet ﷺ, when he traveled for more than this 4 days, he did not shorten. Yes, for this, the Prophet ﷺ, when he traveled for more than 4 days in one of his trips, he did not shorten his prayers. Do you get that? Clear?
Is the 4 days debated? I've heard 3.
Yeah, so that's the majority opinion.
4 is majority.
Yes, so there's an opinion that says 3, and there's an opinion that says as long as you're not considered to be a resident, right? So I'm over here for a month and a half, right? And I don't consider myself to be a resident. I'm just visiting, right? I don't have a home. I don't have like a place to stay properly. So I'm not considered to be a resident, right? But Rizwan has kept me with him, so may Allah bless him. Moving on. Any questions with traveler? Moving on. If you have any questions later on, inshallah we can answer them. The second is Jum'ah. Right? The second prayer is Jum'ah. Jum'ah is an obligation upon every person or who is obligated to pray in congregation. Who is obligated to pray in congregation? All men who are adults, sane, Muslims, so on and so forth. So whoever is obligated to pray in a congregation is obligated to pray Jum'ah, right? The conditions for Jum'ah to be obligated upon you. So you have two conditions. You have two types of conditions. You have the conditions for acceptance and you have the conditions for obligation, right? First, we'll take the conditions for acceptance. Do you guys understand the difference between the conditions for acceptance and the conditions for obligation? Is that clear? Conditions for acceptance. Sorry. So you have the conditions for acceptance and the conditions for obligation. Conditions for acceptance is that if you don't fulfill that condition, your prayer is not accepted. Right? So when we said in Salah in the first class, we said a person has to be mentally sane for their Salat. Being mentally sane is a condition for acceptance. Being mentally sane is a condition for acceptance. Meaning, if a person is mentally insane and he prays, his prayer is not accepted. Right? A person prays, and similarly, being a Muslim is also a condition for acceptance. Meaning, if a disbeliever comes and he prays his Dhuhr prayer with all the pillars and all the conditions and all the obligations and all the sunnahs, his prayer is not accepted, because being a Muslim is a condition for acceptance. Then you have the condition for obligation, such as being an adult. Being an adult is a condition for obligation. Meaning, if a child comes and prays, we say your prayer is accepted, but you were not obligated to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for your prayer, but you were not obligated in the first place to pray. Was that clear? So the first condition for acceptance is the beginning of the time. When does the time of Dhuhr begin? Yeah, as soon as the sun passes, it's zenith. As soon as the sun passes, it's zenith. But for Jum'ah, that's not the case. For Jum'ah, I'll ask another question. When does the second prohibited time start? We said the first time starts after Fajr until the sun starts to rise. Then the second time starts when? The sun starts to rise until it rises up to the height of a spear. The height of his spear. That's when the time of Jum'ah starts. Do you get that? That's when the time of Jum'ah starts. That's only for the Hanbali school of thought. They say the time of Jum'ah is longer than the time of Dhuhr. So the time of Jum'ah starts from that time when the sun has risen to the height of his spear till when? When's the end of time of Dhuhr? When the shadow of an object equals its length, right? So we say the time of Jum'ah starts when the sun has risen to the height of his spear till the shadow of an object equals its length.
At the same time that usually is for Eid as well?
Yes, for Eid is the same time. We'll come for Eid. We have an entire slide for Eid. Right? So the time of Jum'ah starts when the sun has risen to the height of his spear. So when the sun, the shape of the sun completely appears, and from that moment till the sun has risen to the spear is like 15 minutes, right? So when you see, when you check online or whatever, like when does the sun rise, add another 15 minutes to that, and that's when the time of Jum'ah starts, and that's when the time of the prohibition ends, and that's when the time of Dhuha and Salat al-Tashriq and all those prayers start as well. Shuruq. Was that clear? Any questions about the time?
Yeah. So you said Hanbali says that. How about other?
They say the time of Jum'ah starts when the time of Dhuhr starts. When the sun passes its zenith. Right? Was that clear?
It ends also the time when Dhuhr ends.
Yeah, they all agree upon that. The time of Jum'ah ends that when the time of Dhuhr ends. Was that clear? So if a person prays before the sun has risen to its spear and prays Jum'ah, right? We say his prayer is invalid. Okay, let me give you guys a situation. A person starts his khutbah before the sun has risen to the spear, and he prays his 2 rakahs of Jum'ah after the sun has risen to the spear. What do you guys think? No? Yes? Why?
Because Jum'ah is part of it.
Yes. So the scholars say the reason Jum'ah is 2 rakahs and not 4 rakahs is, and Dhuhr is 4 rakahs, is because the 2 khutbahs take place of the first 2 rakahs. Right? The 2 khutbahs take place of the first 2 rakahs, and your Jum'ah is invalid if you don't have a khutbah. Right? Having a khutbah is an obligation. So having the khutbah also has to be after the beginning of the time. Is that clear? The second, and this is the time, okay, I should have.
What about like the case of some imam may give like a khutbah but they don't pray? They already pray. Like my school.
It's okay to have different, like if imam is not the person who's leading the salah, it's fine.
It doesn't have to be like the imam who is leading the khutbah who lead the prayer.
No, it's not a condition. It's not a condition.
So if you have, let's say, a khatib, you have 2 prayers at this masjid. The khatib gives a khutbah for both of them. Or
No,
only
he.
the first one. Salah. The thing is, he already prayed Jum'ah, but one was going to give the khutbah the second time.
I don't know.
That's my question.
That's your question? Okay. I thought you were like the person gives a khutbah and he doesn't pray Jum'ah.
No, you already prayed with the first Jum'ah. Like at my school.
Yeah, so he just reads khutbah and goes back and sits down.
Pray the first Jum'ah.
I don't know.
And the second Jum'ah you give the khutbah again.
We don't have a 5th class for me to get back to you, but I will get back to you.
So when you finish the khutbah, you said like one of them can lead it, but I already prayed.
Why can't you just pray again?
Because you can't pray
No.
twice.
It could be a sunnah prayer, right?
But he will have to be like, no, the issue is giving khutbah twice. That's the problem.
So he can't give khutbah twice?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
Can you lead a fard salah twice?
No. You can't repeat your fard salah.
No. For you, the first time you prayed it was Dhuhr fard, and the second time you did the Jum'ah and the Ashraf.
We said that a person praying an obligatory prayer behind a person praying voluntary prayer is not allowed. Clear? For acceptance, you need 40 people in Jama'ah, right? And this is a condition for the majority schools of thought, that you need 40 people who are obligated to pray Jama'ah. You need 40 people who are obligated to pray Jummah. Who we said who's obligated to pray Jummah? Jummah, Muslim men who are adults and mentally sane, right? So if you have 20 men who are obligated and you have 20 women, your Jummah is not accepted. You need 40 people to make Jummah acceptable, not valid, not obligated, for acceptance. This is a condition for acceptance, meaning, I'll come to you. If you have less than 40 people in your Jama'ah, in congregation, then you don't have any Jummah. You're exempted from Jummah.
What does it mean? You're exempted?
Yes, you're exempted.
You don't have to pray Jummah.
You don't have to pray Jummah. You're going to pray Dhuhr. No sin on you.
So what if like your HMS is sometimes there's not 40 people that come to Jummah? Right?
They have Jummahs. They have Jummah at UH.
There's sometimes where there's like during finals, like a lot of people during finals.
Yeah.
During the summertime.
So the Hanbalis, Malikis, and Shafi'is, they all say you need 40 people. The Hanafis say that 3 people are enough.
So what would happen? Would you advise them to not have Jummah or to go to the masjid?
No, I would take the other opinion because of their circumstances. But I would not let a masjid, won't allow a masjid which is built and there's a masjid close by who has 40 people and let them have another Jummah. No.
Same thing for like high school MSAs. Sometimes they're small MSAs. They don't have 40 members.
They usually don't have options to go to.
Yeah. I mean, you can get.
So there's another opinion even within the Hanbali school of thought that says it's okay. But the chosen opinion is the 40 people opinion.
So in the masjid they usually do two Jummahs, right?
Yeah.
The first one usually is the one that's packed.
Yeah.
And the second one usually is the one that doesn't have 40 people. Yes.
Yeah. So according to this opinion, it would be invalid.
Even in the masjid.
Yeah. According to this opinion, which is the majority opinion.
Well, what if you go there, you miss the first one? Would you be sinful?
If you believe that you need 40 people and you still go, then yes.
If you don't do that, then there's no more Jummah.
You couldn't make it for Jummah. Is it as if you missed Jummah? Intentionally, you're sinful. If you did it forgetfully or it was inconvenient for you, then you're not sinful. Just like any other act of worship.
Usually they're evened out, but sometimes, like, I don't know, depending on which
I know it's a hard opinion, but it's a majority opinion. And there's an explicit saying from Jabir radiallahu anhu that says, who said that the sunnah is that there's no Jum'ah for less than 40 people. He explicitly said that it's from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that there's no Jum'ah for less than 40 people. And that's a very strong statement from a Sahabi. So
That doesn't mean that you should just pray Zuhr.
you pray Dhuhr then. Question is one?
No, it's just hard to
Yeah, I know.
think about because like there's so many times where I prayed that had different people.
Make sure, try your best not to. If you do, then there's a valid opinion that it's okay.
Okay, so this is a different scenario of a Jum'ah Eid.
We'll come to that. Once we've done Eid, we'll come to that. We have a slide for Eid. We'll come to that. Any questions for 40 people?
Well, just about Jumu'ah, so if you miss the first khutbah, but you make it to the second one, do you like add a rakat to the...
No, you would just pray with them. Just pray with them, inshallah.
What if you missed the khutbah? Oh wait, you have to pray 4 then, right? You get up and pray 2 more?
No. So we're coming to that, inshallah. We're coming to that, inshallah. Any questions about these issues? Once we're done with the slides, you can ask whatever we missed out on. Now we'll just keep the questions to whatever is on the screen, right? The third condition is to be in their city. Jummah has to be performed in the city, meaning where people reside, the city of the residence. So one of the conditions for Jummah to be obligated is that we said that a person has to be a resident, right? A person can't be a traveler. A person has to be a resident. When you have 40 men who are residents and who are mentally sane, who are adults, they have to perform their Jummah in the city. They have to be in the city. Was that clear? So let's say you have 40 people who are traveling, right? They don't have to pray Jummah, right? But if you have 40 people in the city or residents, they have to pray Jummah in their city. They can't perform Jummah outside of Houston. They have to perform Jummah inside of Houston. Is that clear as well? Let's say you have 40 people over here and they all leave Houston and pray in Galveston.
Okay.
We say no, you pray in Houston.
You have to pray in the city.
They have to pray in the city. In their city where they reside in.
If you're a traveler, you cannot pray Jumu'ah?
Okay, so you have 3 types of people. This is kind of complicated. I wanted to avoid it, but you brought it up. It's fine, but it's going to be complicated, right? You have 3 types of people in terms of traveling and residence. You have the person who is a complete resident, you have a person who is a complete traveler, and you have a person who is a traveling resident, right? So the person who is a resident is like you guys over here in Houston. A person who is a complete traveler when you're traveling to Dallas for 2 days. A person who is a traveling resident who is living in Dallas for more than 4 days, right? So a person who is a complete resident, he is obligated to pray Jummah, right? And he is considered to be, he qualifies to be from the 40 people, right? A person who is a traveler is not obligated to pray Jummah, and he's not qualified to be from the 40 people. Do you get it? The third is, you have a person who is a traveling resident. He is obligated to pray Jummah, but he does not qualify to be from the 40 people.
Because it's not in his city?
Yeah, because it's not in his city. Good point. Was that clear? A bit complicated, but I tried my best to make it clear.
So what if a group of people, 40 people are traveling together from one city to another city, and they're just together and it's Jummah time? They have to pray Jummah, but they're the only people around.
Yeah, so they're not obligated to pray Jummah.
Even though there's 40 people?
Yeah.
Because they're not in their city, they don't have to.
They're not residents. So we said one of the conditions is that?
Is the obligation lifted from them?
Yes.
They're not sinful?
Yes, they're not sinful. But if they saw a Jummah going on, then they have to. Unlike the traveler. If a person is there for 4 days and he doesn't want to pray Jummah, it's fine.
So what about if you travel in the van, like some scholars have traveled to Djibouti. So that even though you are not obligated to pray Jummah, that means you cannot lead or?
You can lead. You can lead if the congregation is over 40 people.
What if you travel?
Yes. So the traveler can pray Jummah. He can, pray, not combine and shorten his prayers, but he has the permission not to.
Oh.
We're talking about obligation. Good point, good point.
Nomads. The people who don't really...
So the fuqaha talk about people who are sailors and don't have a home. Right? The fuqaha talk about this. And someone will ask me a question about truck drivers who just keep driving all around the country. They don't have a place, they live in their trucks. Right? So the fuqaha classically talked about sailors in that sense, that they would live in their boats, they would travel from one country to another. So the Hanbalis say that if he has his family with him on his boat and he has his stuff with him, then he is considered to be a resident on his boat. But if he doesn't have his family with him, then he's not considered to be a resident. Like he can be a traveler for his entire life. The Shafi'is say even if he has his family with him, he's considered a traveler. No Jum'ahs, he can combine, shorten, all that stuff. Because he has no home, basically. He doesn't have a destination.
You define home by if you have like your wife and your family?
Yeah, so the Hanbalis define it with a family and kids. And
that's assuming you're not going to stay in one spot for more than 4 days. No.
See, that's what the problem is. They keep on traveling.
Yeah, but I mean, they know
sometimes you stop.
If you stop for more than 4 days, then yes, that becomes your resident. You become a traveling resident. Yeah. Was that clear? For another condition for Jummah to be accepted is that you have to have 2 khutbahs before the prayer. Meaning, if you don't have 2 khutbahs, your Jummah is invalid. If you have 2 khutbahs after the prayer, your Jummah is invalid. Was that clear? If you have 1 khutbah, your Jummah is invalid. Was that clear? 2 khutbahs are mandatory. Do they have to be separated or do we have to be together? It's fine. You can separate them. It's a sunnah to separate them. But if a person does his 2 khutbahs together, right? He doesn't put a break between them. Like he says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ala Nabiyyina Muhammad, and he says, Alhamdulillah wa salatu wasalam. It's fine. He can do his 2 khutbahs. But it's preferred for him to give a break.
So the sunnah to do the break?
Yeah. We'll come to that, inshallah. We have the sunnahs.
Regarding the 40 people, so let's say there are 2 masjids in like a small city.
Yeah.
But there's 40 people that will be at the bigger masjid.
Yeah.
And the smaller one most likely won't have 40 people. Is it obligatory for them to go to the
Yes, yes, yes. That's a good point. Yeah.
Is there wisdom for in their city? I don't understand.
Because the whole issue of Jummah is that every city has to have a Jummah. Do you get that? So if the residents of the city go outside and don't perform Jummah, then you're not performing the Jummah.
Like Houston, for example, the modern day cities Houston has 70 Jummahs.
Okay.
One masjid says that we're going to go to Galveston and do Jummah. Because Jummah is for like people still doing Jummah in the city.
Yeah, if it was only them, then it would not be accepted. Do you get that?
If one masjid says we're going to have Jummah today in Galveston.
Yeah. Do they have 40 people in Galveston?
Yeah.
They have 40 people.
They have 40 of these people.
So we said if it's only travelers, then they're not obligated to Jummah.
What if they're staying more than 4 days? So they're temporary or they're permanent travelers.
They're traveling residents,
Yeah.
right? Could you repeat that question?
They're 40 people from Maryam should go to Galveston.
Okay.
And they pray on the beach.
Yeah.
Jummah.
No, I would find that problematic.
The reason why it's problematic is because they're not in their city.
No, because they don't qualify to be 40 people.
Because they're not in their city.
Yes.
But we're saying that in their city is because if someone leaves their city and pays Jummah, then the city doesn't have Jummah, right?
Yes.
But the city has
That's one part. The other part is the 40 people. 40 people on whom Jummah is obligated upon.
Okay.
So you have 40 people whom Jummah is obligated upon. They have to perform their Jummah in their city. It's kind of connected, but they mention it this way.
For 40 people, it's 40 people, and they should be complete residents.
Yes.
That's the condition.
Yes.
How about a town with not that many Muslims in it? So they're not obligated to Jummah
No.
at all?
No.
Well, what happens if they do pray Jummah?
Some say it's not accepted, some say it's accepted, but I would not go with the first opinion just because people need to listen to sermons and people need to listen to khutbahs. So I would go with the other opinion, which is the Hanbali opinion, another Hanbali opinion, and the Hanafi opinion that says 3 people are enough. So I would go for that opinion just for the bigger purpose that people need some kind of reminders every week. So I would choose that because of the bigger purpose.
You said that the 40 people is a strong hadith from who?
Jabir radiallahu anhu.
What does the Hanafi say about that then?
They say that they go to the linguistic perspective that Jum'ah comes from the word Jama'ah, or a group of people, right? And in Arabic, anything that is three is considered to be a group or plural, right? So in Arabic you have a singular, and then you have a word for dual, and then you have a word for anything that's above that, right? So they say anything that is three is considered to be a group. It's considered to be, like even in Jama'ah and congregation, not Jum'ah, in Jama'ah, 2 people are enough to fulfill the obligation of Jama'ah, or to get the reward of Jama'ah. Do you get that? So that's their perspective. They go from the linguistic perspective. Is it clear? Moving on. Now you have the conditions for obligation, meaning these people are obligated. I should have mentioned that first, but khair inshallah. The first thing, a person has to be a male, a person has to be an adult, a person has to be a resident for Jum'ah to be obligated upon him. Not Jum'ah to be accepted, for Jum'ah to be obligated upon them. A complete resident. Any questions about this?
Has to be sane?
Yeah. I should have mentioned that as well. But yeah, sane.
For the resident, it could also be traveling resident, right? Because it's a traveling resident also.
Yeah, resident. Yeah, so not complete resident. Resident or traveling resident.
That's why I said it's going to be complicated. For Jum'ah to be obligated upon them, these people qualify for the 40 people, right? So if you have a town where you have 39 complete residents and 1 traveling resident, no Jum'ah on them. But let me finish. If you have 40 complete residents in that city and you have 1 traveling resident, that traveling resident is obligated to go to pray Jum'ah.
So he doesn't make up the 40, but he's always obligated.
Yes, that's the difference between him and the traveler and the resident. The traveler, even if there are like 50 people praying Jum'ah, he's not obligated to go.
Yeah, so wouldn't he fall in this? The complete resident and the traveling resident would be...
But we're trying to go for the people who are from the 40 people.
So there's 2 different types of obligations.
Yes. Was that clear?
There's an obligation that make up the 40, and the obligation is just in general.
Yeah, and that's just one guy. That's just a traveling resident. That's just 1/3 person. Was that clear?
And the same person.
And the person's sane as well. There's another condition that a person has to be sane as well. Mentally sane. Remind me of that, right? I'll add it to the slide. Wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. My bad. Moving on, inshallah. Now you have the recommended acts on the day of Jummah. What should a person do on the day of Jummah? Recommended acts, khutbah will come later on, but recommended acts on the day of Jummah in general. The first thing is taking a shower and bathing before the day of Jummah. It's a sunnah to take a shower before Salat al-Jummah. There is a minor opinion that says that it is wajib, it is obligatory for a person to take a shower before Jummah, but the majority schools of thought go with the opinion that it is a sunnah to take a shower before Jummah. Second is going early. It is a sunnah to go as soon as the time starts. When does the time start? Ba'da shuruq. Shuruq is when the sun is rising. Ba'da shuruq is after the sun is risen. So the Prophet ﷺ in a long hadith mentions the virtues of the people who go in the first hour and the second hour. Hour in their terms was not 60 minutes. Hour was a period of time. So hour in Arabic is sa'ah, right? It's called sa'ah. But in linguistically, classically, sa'ah did not mean 60 minutes. It meant a period of time. So even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that on the day of judgment, you will be standing there. On the day of judgment, people will think as if they lived in this dunya for a sa'ah. Right? It doesn't mean there's 60 minutes, but they just think that was a short amount of time.
So those rewards that was mentioned in the hadith, is there...
So you divide the day into that many parts.
That many...
Yeah.
Or do you divide the whole day into that many parts, or from the time that Jummah starts?
Till Dhuhr. Till Dhuhr. Because Dhuhr is when Jummah is obligated. Do you get it? Let me rephrase that. it is permissible for you to do it after sun has risen, but as soon as Dhuhr time comes in, it becomes obligated upon you, right? Meaning, if a person was obligated to do Jum'ah after the sun has risen, right, and he becomes mentally insane after that, before Dhuhr time comes in, he doesn't have to make up for that. But if the Dhuhr time comes in, then he has to make up for that. Was that clear?
If he becomes mentally insane before Dhuhr time comes in,
He doesn't have to make up for Dhuhr.
but if he's sane when it comes in, and then he becomes insane during the time of Dhuhr,
Then he has to make up for
if
that.
he was sane part
Yes,
of the time of Dhuhr.
yes. Similarly for sisters when they have their periods.
So assuming the masjid prays the Jummah before Dhuhr comes in,
Yeah.
and you can't go to the masjid to pray Jummah at that time, but because it's not obligated.
Why can't you go?
Work.
You should look for another job.
I mean, I agree with that.
No, you should look, it's an obligation upon you to look for another job.
All right, so for that one instance.
Yeah, so until you can find another job, right, Umair? Find another job? Inshallah. So you have to look for another job, right? It's an obligation for you to ASAP look for another job. Until you find that, yes, you're exempted. But before that, it's an obligation upon you to find it ASAP. Make a condition before you agree to a contract that I need
I understand that. I mean, more of the time frame, because you can go lunchtime usually around where Dhuhr is,
Yeah.
so you can take off and you're fine for Jummah. But before,
Yeah, if a
so
masjid
pray
prays
before the
beforehand.
time, it's obligated.
Good, yeah.
Does that remove and you go to the masjid, but there's no Jummah.
You go to the time when it's obligated on you to go. But the masjid that's near you, that you were able to go to, you have to pray before.
I think does any masjid do it before the time?
I don't think
I think because this is the only Hanbali opinion. The majority, other three schools of thought go with the opinion that time starts when Dhuhr starts. So I think everyone starts at Dhuhr. That's a kind of hypothetical
That's
question.
what your city are. In Virginia, they pray it before Dhuhr just because they try to fit in 3 Jummahs. In Michigan. There's not that many.
To go to the second one, which is after you have a second Jummah, just go to that.
I was just it was more a hypothetical question.
It's a good question, but I don't know. Zubayr. Alright, the third recommended act is praying the sunnahs after Jummah. You can pray 2, 4 or 6. For Jummahs, you can pray 2, 4 or 6. There's no sunnah before Jummah. Is there a sunnah before Dhuhr? Yes. How many rakahs? 4, some say 2, right? So there's no sunnah before Jummah, but there's a sunnah after Jummah, which is either 2, 4 or 6, and it's recommended to do it in the masjid, right? The rest of the sunnahs are recommended to do at home.
I think we 6 in one.
No, 2. Right?
Or after Jummah, is it still, would you still do the 2 regular Dhuhr sunnah, or would you just drop that for those?
So you make the intention for Jummah sunnahs.
Sorry, the only thing that, okay.
No, go.
Wait, I think you might cover.
What was your question?
When you pray the Tahiyat al-Masjid,
Yeah.
this is the time when the Khatib started.
No. So we're coming to sunnahs, but I'll give you have unconditional sunnahs and you have conditional sunnahs, or unspecific sunnahs and specific sunnahs. So you can pray unspecific sunnahs, it's fine. But you can't have the intention for praying the sunnah of Dhuhr. So there's a prescribed sunnah for each prayer, except for Asr, right? If there's a prescribed sunnah except for Asr. So there's a prescribed sunnah for each prayer. So to have that intention, is you can only pray it after. There's no prescribed sunnah for Jummah before, but you can pray like unspecific sunnahs. If you're in the masjid early and you want to pray, yes?
My question was, when you go into the masjid and the Khatib started,
Yes.
are
You-
you obligated to pray Tahiyat al-Masjid?
Yes.
Or are you obligated to
You're not obligated, but it's highly recommended.
just pray Tahiyat?
Yes.
Even though it's,
Yes. Was it clear?
yes, that was.
Preparing for Jummah. So that's a sunnah, a person should clip his nails. It's a sunnah to have cologne, perfume on. It's a sunnah to wear your best of clothes on the day of Jummah before going to Jummah, right? Reading Surah Al-Kahf, the Prophet ﷺ says that whoever reads Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enlighten his week until the next Friday, Jum'ah, right? Another
Sorry, with Surah Al-Kahf, I've heard that it's, if you read the last 10, the first 10, you're obligated.
No, that's not enough. You have to read the whole thing. Okay, but when does the time of Surah Al-Kahf for Jum'ah start?
The following day, right? Because it's the day of Jum'ah. Maghrib is the following day.
Before. Yeah. So let's say today's Thursday, right? Let's say today's Thursday. The time of reading Surah Al-Kahf will start right after Maghrib, right? Because the day Jum'ah, that's when Jum'ah starts, and it's better to do it at that time so that you will be protected until next Friday.
And it goes until the beginning.
Yeah. Next Thursday's Maghrib. Was that clear?
What if you can't read? Go ahead.
The brother was asking about praying Salah before while the khutbah was going on. Is that the two Salah you pray when you enter the masjid?
Yes, that's Tahiyyat al-Masjid. That's called Tahiyyat al-Masjid.
You have to pray that even when the khutbah is going on?
Yes.
Before you enter the masjid?
Yes. The Prophet ﷺ was giving khutbah and a man came and entered and he sat down. The Prophet ﷺ asked him, did you pray 2 rakahs? He said no. The Prophet ﷺ told him to get up and pray 2 rakahs. Oh yeah. Any questions about the recommended acts?
What if you can't read Arabic? If you read the English?
No. You have to read Arabic.
What if you don't know Arabic? You just miss out on that.
Try listening to it and try working on it.
Listening to it will work.
It won't give you the same reward for sure, but having the intention will give you the reward. Being close to the Imam. Sometimes what happens, people enter the masjid, especially the brothers, they'll be at the end of the masjid. No, get close to the Imam. It's a sunnah to get close to the Imam. Reading Surah Al-Jumu'ah in the first rak'ah and Surah Al-Munafiqun in the second rak'ah, it's a sunnah to read that when the Imam is leading. If you're the Imam, you should read these 2 surahs in your first and second rak'ah. There's another sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ used to read Surah Al-A'la and Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Sabbih isma rabbika al-A'la and Hal ataka hadith al-Ghashiyah in the 2 rak'ahs. So both of them are sunnahs. Was that clear? Any questions about this? Not Jum'ah, just this. We have another slide for Jum'ah.
The recommended acts?
Yeah, recommended acts or conditions.
You said preparing for Jum'ah, you said cutting your nails. Is there anything else that Prophet did?
He would clip his nails. He would wash his clothes, because many of the Sahaba had just one piece of cloth. That's all they owned from this dunya, subhanallah. And they would wear that the entire week, and the night of Jum'ah they would wash that, so they would implement the sunnah of wearing something washed the other day. Right, so it's sunnah to wear something new. It's not new, something clean, something fresh. Put on cologne, put on perfume. Trim your mustache, whatever. Clip your nails.
For a woman,
Same. No, not perfume outside. But she can wear new clothes, fresh clothes.
it's might be off topic, but is it not allowed for women to
If it's between her family members, then it's fine.
just going to the masjid?
No. If she's going to be in front of other men, then she shouldn't put on like cologne, which is strong enough that would would attract other people. Yes. If it's like lotion or something, that's fine.
Is it just looked down upon, or is it haram, or is it?
No, it's strong. It could be haram because there's a strong warning against it.
A question regarding taking a shower. Can you take it the shower before you leave in the morning?
So the time for the sunnah, this sunnah starts after Fajr. Good question.
You just take it in the morning.
Yeah, so let's say you wake up after Fajr and you take a shower, but you have to make the intention that you're doing it for the sunnah of Jum'ah, sorry. Right?
For the Surah Al-Kahf, it starts from Thursday, end of Maghrib,
Yes.
until when?
Till next Thursday Maghrib.
No, that's
The time until Maghrib, yes, until Maghrib.
Friday.
Yes, Friday Maghrib. Good question.
Or you can read it after Jum'ah, right?
Yeah, so you have from Maghrib till Maghrib.
You just read it on Friday itself, not before the Salah.
No, you should read it as soon as Maghrib starts.
On Thursday.
And when Thursday ends on Maghrib, you should read it then. So you get much more reward. So that part of your week will not be covered up if you don't read it.
What I meant is it better to, or at least you're supposed to finish reading Surah Al-Kahf before the Salah or Jama'ah?
No, there's no condition. Like if you read 10 ayat and 10 ayat and spread half the surah there, it's fine.
Is it Thursday after Maghrib is finished, or Thursday when Maghrib starts?
When Maghrib starts.
So Adhan and Maghrib?
Yes, as soon as Adhan is given, Thursday it finishes. So let's say the masjid you're praying it is prays late a bit, half an hour late, so you can sit down and read Surah Al-Kahf. As for the first 10 ayat and this last 10 ayat, from what I remember, that protects you from Dajjal. If you memorize those, that protects you. Only the first 10 ayat, only the first 10 ayat. If you memorize the first 10 ayat, that will protect you from Dajjal.
And what's the blessing of reading Surah Al-Kahf?
It enlightens your week from that Jummah until the next Jummah.
What does that mean?
I mean, Allah will bless you in that, He will protect you in that. I mean, you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When He says, I'll enlighten you, He will enlighten you. Do you get that? Like bless you, protect you. Yes. Yeah. So the word is in the hadith is used enlightens, that's why I used enlighten. Alright, now we have the khutbah. For the khatibs, this is important. We'll go through it a bit quick. The conditions for the khutbah to be accepted. For the khutbah to make your Jummah accepted, first the intention. Let's say a person, there's a prescribed khatib who is supposed to come to the masjid and he's late, and someone stands up and he gives a short khatara or a short reminder, and then the khatib's like, I can't make it. He's like, okay, we'll consider that the khutbah. No, he has to have the intention for giving the khutbah. The reminder that he's giving to the people has to be given with the intention of a khutbah for Jummah. Was that clear? Please say yes.
Yeah, does it matter when we're giving it? Like someone late and someone just goes on the spot to give khutbah?
Yes, if he has the intention, yes. 40 people, meaning if the khutbah is given to less than 40 people, then the khutbah is invalid.
Is khatib included in the 40?
Yes.
So 39?
Yes. Yes. The beginning of time, as we said, that after the sun has risen to the height of a spear, the khutbah has to start after that time. Clear? Clear? The khutbah precedes the prayer, meaning if you do the khutbah after the prayer, your khutbah is invalid. Clear? You want me to go slower, Rizwan? You good? At least 40 people should be able to hear the khutbah. This is important. Let's say the imam is standing on the mimbar and you have 80 people, but only 10 people can listen to the khutbah. That doesn't make your khutbah valid. At least 40 people should be able to hear your voice. Do you get it?
So if you have a khatib and his voice is really, really low or not loud, and only a few people can hear it, do you stop the khatib?
You change it. Yeah, you should use a microphone.
Huh?
Yeah, use a microphone. Yeah, alhamdulillah, we have microphones. If they
Microphones don't work, right?
yeah, so usually 40 people is not hard to make them to listen. It's pretty easy. Or make them come closer. Make them closer.
If the khatib isn't fulfilling one of the conditions, is it the Jama'ah's opposite? Is it if the khatib isn't fulfilling one of these conditions as the khatib? Whose responsibility is to tell him to step down and someone else?
So, like which condition isn't he fulfilling?
Yeah, we haven't finished it.
Yes. No, it was not a condition. We'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come to that. Let's keep the questions for what we've mentioned. Once we've done, you can ask whatever you want.
Not in this masjid, in many masjids, the speaker is not working the sister section, and sometimes they knock the door.
Yeah.
That they cannot hear.
Yeah.
So what is the Jama'ah supposed to do?
They should fix that.
No, during the.
Yeah, so if 40 people were able to listen, that's enough.
So if the sisters don't listen, it's okay?
No, it's wrong, but their Jummah is valid. We're talking about the validity of the Jummah. That's wrong. Obviously, if the people were careless and reckless, the sisters, they're sinful for that. But like I remember last Jummah at Masjid Salam in Champions, they had a problem. You live there? Okay. So, okay, yeah. So they had that problem, and they apologized for that. That the sound system messed up. Right. The khutbah has to be in Arabic. Not the entire khutbah, the minimum mandatory, will come to that, inshallah. The khatib has the conditions of being an imam. We mentioned the conditions of being an imam last class, that he has to be upright, he has to be adult, he has to be mentally sane, all those conditions we mentioned last class, right? The imam khatib has to fulfill the conditions of prayer when he's praying, not giving the khutbah. We'll come to that. Okay, now you have the pillars of the khutbah. We said the conditions come always before the act, right? And pillars are in the act. Conditions come before. So these conditions are before the act. Pillars of the khutbah. The first pillar is praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The khatib has to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if it's like Alhamdulillah, if he says that, that's a minimum mandatory to say Alhamdulillah. So usually every khatib starts Inna Alhamdulillah Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu to the end of it. So the praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a pillar, meaning your khutbah is not valid if you don't praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, as-salah Ibrahimiyya. He has to give salah on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What is the least mandatory? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. That's the least mandatory version. Third is reciting at least an ayah in your khutbah. Reciting at least an ayah in your khutbah. Usually, alhamdulillah, everyone recites more than an ayah.
This covered, reciting like the ayah covered one, like should be in Arabic.
Yeah, so these things have to be in Arabic. You get it?
No, you said like if you recite like only one ayah, that doesn't fulfill the condition of the khutbah to be in Arabic.
No.
The condition.
No. So these three things on the right, these have to be in Arabic. So let's say a person starts his khutbah, says, praise be to Allah. We say, no, say it in Arabic. You get it? Salah Ibrahimiyya. The fourth thing is reminding the congregation to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. He doesn't have to explicitly say fear Allah. If he says, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's also enough. So if a person fulfills all these four pillars, his khutbah is valid. So let's say a person stands on the minbar and says, Alhamdulillah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Qul huwallahu ahad, and fear Allah, and he ends his khutbah. His khutbah is valid, right? He shouldn't do that, but that's the minimum requirement from him to do. Was that clear?
And both, did it say twice? So you have two khutbahs?
Yes, both of them have to have.
You have both of them?
Yes. Wait 1 second. I'm not completely sure about the two khutbahs, but I think yes, but I'll confirm that.
The conditions, they have to be valid before the act and throughout the act.
Yes.
So for 40 people, if there were 40 people before, when somebody
Leaves any. Yeah, if they're coming back, then that's fine.
So if they don't come back?
Inshallah, it's khair. Like you can't count people in this. I know it's a very technical issue, but khair, inshallah. There's another valid opinion, so we can go with that. Inshallah.
So if we're allowed to take the less stricter opinion?
Yes.
Even
if there's circumstances. We should not go for those, but if we have a situation where we need to, it's fine. Not only based on the desire. So the whole issue of choosing. Okay.
Ease and desire can be very different. Right? Something that's easy might not always be what you desire.
No, usually people desire what's easier.
No, I'm not saying you desire hardship, but
Like if you're at work
it's just.
and the masjid.
So that's a circumstance. Yeah, so that's a circumstance which could make that eligible for you. So we say that go with the opinion that, or the school of thought that you're usually following. So if people are Hanafis, we tell them to stick to the Hanafi school of thought. If people are Shafi'is, we tell them to stick with the Shafi'is. If they're Hanbalis, we stick with the Hanbalis. Unless you have a valid reason like a circumstance or a need, not a necessity, a need, then it's okay to choose another opinion. Like for example, the whole issue of praying Isha behind an Imam praying Taraweeh. The Hanbali school of thought is with the opinion that's not allowed, right? But there are other valid opinions. So if a person comes to the masjid, we tell them, go pray Isha with the Imam. He's praying Taraweeh. Because now you're in that situation, it's okay. There's another valid opinion to do that. Was that clear? But if a person looks for easy opinions, then he becomes a fasiq in Sharia. He becomes someone who is not upright. Right? Now you have the recommended acts in your khutbah. Purification is a sunnah, meaning if the khatib does not have, he's not on his wudu while he's giving the khutbah is valid, but it's something disliked. Do you get it? Second is standing on the mimbar. Standing on the mimbar is a sunnah, meaning if he's sitting on the floor and he gives the khutbah, it is okay, but standing on the mimbar is a sunnah. Leaning on something. The Prophet ﷺ used to have a stick that he used to lean on when he gave the khutbah. Giving salams to the congregation. When the imam comes, he should give salams to the congregation before he starts his khutbah. Sitting until the adhan finishes. So when he gives the salam and the muadhin starts to give the adhan, he should sit down and listen to the adhan. Shortening the khutbah. The khutbah is a sunnah for the khutbah to be short. Now, what is considered short over here? The fuqaha say as long as it would take for you to read Surah Al-Qaf. Surah Al-Qaf is 2.5 pages in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ's khutbah would be that long, as if a person was reading Surah Al-Qaf, which is like 10-15 minutes, right? Facing the Muslims, the khatib should face the Muslims when he is giving the khutbah. But if he's facing the qibla while he is giving the khutbah, it's something disliked, but his khutbah would be valid. Making dua for Muslims, it's a sunnah for the khatib on the day of Jum'ah while he's giving the khutbah to make dua for the Muslims. Was that clear?
So for purification, what about janaba?
Yeah, it's okay. But in janaba, a person should not be in the masjid in the first place. Yeah, his khutbah would be valid.
So then would the person giving the khutbah is sunnah for that same person to lead Salah, right?
Should you repeat that?
The person who gives the khutbah?
Yeah.
It's sunnah for him to also lead the Salah?
Yes. So before he finishes, he has to purify himself.
Let's go take a shower before he finishes.
He shouldn't be giving the khutbah in the first place.
Okay, so let's say he breaks the wudu during the khutbah.
Yes.
During the khutbah,
Yeah.
then he has to go
Make wudu and come back. Yeah. The congregation should wait for him.
Would it be better for him to just let someone else leave?
No, you should make khutbah. It's not very hard. It's like 2 or 3 minutes. You can make the wudu and come back.
You said sitting until the adhan finishes. I didn't hear you. And is that
So when the imam comes in, he gives salam alaikum, right? And what happens after that?
Oh, he sits down.
The muadhin gives the adhan, right? So that's when he should sit down and listen to the adhan. Even between the two khutbahs, it's a sunnah for him to sit down.
You're allowed to drink water during the khutbah?
Yes.
Anybody or just the...
So they say, as for the people, okay, we'll touch on a few issues. As for the people sitting in the congregation, it's okay for them to drink water if they feel very thirsty, right? But just sipping on water as a luxury, no. If they should not talk to anyone. If someone is talking, they can tell them to be quiet, but not verbally. They should, you should use a sign or, just tell them to be quiet. In terms of someone gives salams, a person should not give salams when he enters the masjid if the khatib is giving the khutbah. But if he gives salams, then it's okay for one or two people to respond to the salam. Right?
You should not give salam?
No.
If the khutbah started?
Yes. But if a person, so in general, initiating a salam is a sunnah, but responding to that salam is an obligation. Do you get that?
Yeah.
So they say it's a communal obligation, meaning if a few people respond to the salam, the rest are exempted. But if no one who heard him, no one from them responded to that, then they would be sinned.
How would you tell someone to be quiet without talking? Make it difficult.
Yeah, with a sign, not verbally. So they say with a sign, but not verbally.
Do you have a slide on people?
No, this is the last slide. So any questions at Jummah is now.
Movements while you are sitting down and listening to a khutbah.
Yeah.
Is that not allowed?
Unnecessary movement, it should be avoided.
Does the congregation have to have wudu to listen to the khutbah?
No. Combining Jummah with Asr. If you're traveling. So the Hanbali school of thought says no, because they don't consider Jummah to be a substitute for Dhuhr. They consider Jummah to be a completely separate prayer, which has its separate conditions, separate rulings, and so on and so forth. There are other opinions that say that yes, you can. So a person should avoid it, but if a person needs to, then it's okay, inshallah. Questions for Jummah?
So what should we do like between the two khutbah? Is it a dua or?
No. So some scholars say so there is a time on Jummah where dua is not rejected. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said that on the day of Jummah there's an hour where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never rejects anyone's dua. And the scholars differ where is that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ intentionally did not tell us so that we keep on making dua through the entire day. Right? So some scholars go with the opinion that it's most probably when the Imam sits between the two khutbahs. Some scholars go with that opinion. Majority go with the opinion that it's the last hour or last time period on before the sun sets. Was that the question?
So other than that, you can just sit down and not make a dua or just between the two.
You could. But as soon as you start speaking, you become quiet. Questions?
Do you have to sit between the two khutbahs?
We said it's recommended.
You said stopping is recommended.
No, stopping is no. So doing two khutbahs is an obligation.
Right.
Is that clear? But making a gap between them and sitting down, that's a sunnah.
So when you say making a gap, you're saying also sitting?
Yes.
There's something you should say at the end of the first khutbah that says that it's finished.
It's not something mandatory, but khatib has to be wise enough to make sure that the congregation are with him when he's giving the khutbah. Like, he can't be just fear Allah and he sits down. No, he should gauge it and how people would understand him.
You said sitting is a recommended act?
For the khatib. For the khatib when the imam is giving the adhan. When the muadhin is giving the adhan, sorry.
Not saying between the two.
Yes, for both.
It's recommended.
Yes, it's recommended.
If you come into the masjid and the adhan is going on, and you come in, should you wait?
No, so you should pray your two rakahs. So you have either you're coming in for Jummah or you're coming in for normal prayer. If you're coming in for normal prayer, then you should wait for the adhan to finish and you should respond to the adhan and do the dua after the adhan, then pray your two rakahs. But if it's on Jum'ah, then you should pray your two rakahs, and because the virtue of listening to the khutbah and the obligation of listening to the khutbah is much more superior than responding to the adhan. Is that clear?
So you said the dua is accepted, the minor opinion is between the two?
Yes.
Khutbahs and the majority of...
It's not an opinion. They say that it's most likely at that time. So no one has a definitive answer that it's for certain at this time. So some say it's most likely at that time. Some say it's most likely at the last hour of Jummah. Was that clear? Moving on. Any questions for Jummah? Sure.
So you said that Salah is part of just in general.
Yes.
So
Responding to the Salam.
Yeah. So I guess just related question. When you're sneezing.
Yes.
That's also first, right?
No. So responding to the person who sneezes is a sunnah. Right. But for Salam, it's wajib.
Do you say alhamdulillah when you sneeze during the khutbah?
I think yes, you should. So they say if the Imam mentions the name of the Prophet ﷺ, you should say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I would not say that responding to the person who sneezes. You should not respond to the person who sneezes.
Can you stand up and talk to the Imam?
If it's for a purpose for the khutbah, yes. So let's say the Imam is giving the khutbah and the mic is off, right? And he doesn't know. So it's okay for someone from the congregation to tell them, switch on the mic. If it's they mention that if it's for the purpose of the khutbah, then that's okay. But it can't be like, where do you want to do lunch? No.
Can some people get up and be like, signal people to come up, move up? Is someone from the congregation allowed to do that?
He could tell the Imam to tell the people.
Okay. But you can get up and say it without actually speaking.
Are you allowed to do that?
I think that's kind of problematic. I would rather tell the Imam. Because if the Imam says it in the mic, more people will know. But you should. Why are you telling people to move forward?
Because no room in the back.
Okay. Okay. Then that's for the purpose of Jummah. Yeah. Any questions for Jummah before we move on? We have Janazah and we have Eid left. Moving on. Bismillah. Janazah. Now, Janazah is a communal obligation, meaning if enough people fulfill Janazah, then people who were able to, the rest of the people who were able to are exempted from. Is that clear? But if no one does it, then anyone who was able to pray Janazah is sinned. Right? So women are exempted from this from the beginning. It's a sunnah for them to pray, but they're exempted from the obligation. Meaning if even no one prays, they will not be sinned. But as for the men who are able to go and pray Janazah, it is a communal obligation upon them.
It's the same thing, men who are sane or adults.
Yes.
Same.
Yes. So they have one word for that in Sharia. They call it mukallaf. Mukallaf. From taklif. In Urdu we say taklif, right? It's from that word, from mukallaf, meaning a person has reached a level that he is responsible for his acts and he's held responsible for his crimes. Right? So janazah is considered to be okay. What's the difference between janazah and jinazah? No. So janazah is when you put the fatha or what's it called in Urdu? The zabar, right? Zabar, right? So when you put the fatha or the zabar over the letter, right? Janazah, you're putting the fatha or the zabar over the jim, right? And janazah, you're putting it under the jim, right? So they say janazah is the place where you put the body on. And janazah is the body itself. So it's like the fatha is for the upper part, and janazah is for the lower part. That's a side benefit.
Okay. Put the body on.
Yeah. What's it called? The thing that you not the coffin, but when there's no coffin in Islam.
Yeah, but here we have coffin.
Yeah. So the thing that you put the body on to move the body from one place to another, that's called janazah. Jinazah. So it's like the lower part. The kasra is for the lower part, and the zabar is for the upper part. Yeah, janazah is the actual body. Moving on. The pillars of praying janazah. The first is standing up, meaning janazah cannot be prayed while sitting down if a person is able to pray it while he is standing up. Unlike sunnah prayers, like we said that sunnah prayers, a person has the option of praying while he's sitting down, even if he was able to stand up. But for obligatory prayers, he has to pray standing up if he was able to. You don't remember that? We mentioned that in the conditions, that he has to pray while he's standing up. Second is 4 takbirat. He has to do 4 takbirat in his janazah. Third pillar is Fatiha. He has to read Surah Al-Fatiha, which is after the first takbir, right? After the first takbir, you read Fatiha. Is it a sunnah to read istiftah, which we call sana? Yes, it's a sunnah to read Dua al-Istiftah. Subhanakallah bihamdik tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduk.
Before the first takbir?
After the first takbir, before the Fatiha. Yes. Sending salams upon the Prophet ﷺ, which is a Salah Ibrahimiyya. Thirdly is dua for the deceased. So there is a prescribed version which is mentioned in the hadith, and there's general dua. So making any dua for the deceased is the pillar. So if a person says, "Oh Allah, forgive him," he has fulfilled the minimum mandatory. Is it? Yeah, if a person can, he should. If he can't, then it's okay to do in other languages. Then doing the salam. How many salams? 1 salam, not 2 salams, 1 salam. That's one opinion. There is another opinion that says 2 salams. The Hanbalis are with the opinion that it's 1 salam. Was that clear? Anything with the pillars?
Yeah. After the first takbir, before the Fatiha, what are you supposed to do?
The dua al-istiftah, what Desis call as sana. So when you're praying normally, you say Allahu Akbar, then you read a dua before you read Fatiha, right? That's called sana, or that's called dua al-istiftah in Arabic. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. This is one version. There's another version. Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khataya kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal maghrib. Allahumma naqqini min khataya kama naqqayta ath-thawb al-abyad.
So the root is after, so you takbir, you be silent, You takbir again and do ruku?
I'll do an example, inshallah. I'll do an example. Then you have the sequence, meaning it has to be done in the sequence. The Fatiha is first, then the salams, then the dua. Right? We'll come to that. I'll do a practical example. Recommended acts while doing your praying janazah. The first is the position of the imam. Where does the imam stand when he is praying on the body? If it is a man, if it was a male in general, he should stand by his chest. He should stand by his chest. Was that clear? If it was a woman, he should stand in the middle of the body. Was that clear? The narrated dua which is mentioned in the sunnah, which is, who knows the dua? Dua for janazah. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم واكرم نزلهم. It's a long dua.
When do you read this?
After the third takbir. I'll do an example. Raising the hands. So as it is in Salah, raising the hands is a sunnah, but saying Allahu Akbar is a fard, right? So when you're praying janazah, you stand up and you face the qibla, you say Allahu Akbar, right? And then you read Surah Dua al-Istiftah, then you read Surah al-Fatiha. After you read Surah al-Fatiha, you do not read a surah after that. It is not even a sunnah to read a surah after Fatiha, right? And then you say Allahu Akbar, and then you do your Salah Ibrahimiyya, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim, to the end of the dua. Then you say Allahu Akbar, then you make dua for the deceased. If you know the prescribed dua, you should read that. If you don't, then make any dua for the person who has passed away. If you can do it in Arabic, do it in Arabic. If you can't, then do it in any language, right? Then you say Allahu Akbar, and then you give salams, right? If the Imam does salam. If the Imam takes a pause, some scholars say you can make dua for yourself at that time, before the salam, right? Just like you do it in Salah, you can do it also over here. Was that clear?
So you do the final takbir before doing the final salam?
Yes.
Do you have to move your head one way or the other?
Sunnah is to move the head, but the minimum mandatory is that you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Questions about janazah?
Does the sleeve to the right knee, right?
Yes.
There's no opinion for the left?
There is an opinion that says both.
Okay.
That's if you say two.
Yes.
But we're saying Hamdi is just one.
Yes.
One is just the right.
Yes. Questions?
Do you keep your hands bound every time?
Yes.
That's sunnah, right? Because
Yes.
hands in general is sunnah.
Yes. Questions? If you guys don't have a question, I have a question. Sure.
So when you say for the woman, she should stand in the middle, what is that?
No, if the deceased body is a woman.
Of this?
Yes, it's a good question. Let me clarify this. The position of the imam is in regards to the deceased body. That's why I said position of the imam. Where does he stand, right? Not the congregation.
I have a question regarding that's there's a hadith that it should be like 3
3 saf?
or for someone to be forgiven.
So they say that if 40 people attend, there's a hadith. I'm not sure if it's authentic or not, but I think most probably it's authentic. That if 40 people attend your janazah, you will be granted intercession on the day of judgment. The Prophet ﷺ will intercede for you on the day of judgment. That's a hadith, yeah. So when Imam Ahmad this is a story, when he was tortured in the end of his life, and it was because of one person who made a false accusation against him, and he told them that between us is the janazah. We'll see who has more people praying behind him. And it said that over 1 million people prayed behind Imam Ahmad, and no one prayed behind the other guy. Subhanallah, rahimahullah. Any questions, janazah?
It's the same place you put your hand, same thing?
Yes, everything, as you mentioned. Same for, okay, you guys don't have a question? I have a question. What if you miss a few takbirat? How do you make up for that?
You miss one?
You miss 1, 2, 3. What do you do?
Wait, don't you?
No, there's no such thing.
Does your first takbirat become, does his second become your first?
Yes.
And then he does his taslim?
Yes.
More than you?
Yes, that's how you do it. So his, even if it's his third takbir, it will be your first takbir. But the issue, there's a problem comes when you join him in his last takbir when he's going to do his salams. Right? Like when you start, he's going to finish, right? And the body is taken up, the body is removed. So the scholars say that you should make it quick. Like you shouldn't read the whole dua, you shouldn't make a lot of dua, you shouldn't like read the entire Salah Ibrahimi, you should make it quick because the body has been lifted, right? So you should make it very quick in that situation.
The Imam makes a mistake.
You correct him.
What if the Imam misses the takbir?
You correct him.
So there is no the normal salah that he has to do.
No. Yeah, he has to correct him. If he like, let's say he does 3 and he does salams. I did that 2 Jummahs ago. I did three salams and I forgot. I did 3 takbirs and I did salam and someone said Allahu Akbar. So I went back and I did an extra takbir and I did salam.
But there's no room for the missing one.
No. Any questions?
If you miss it, so let's say you miss one and you miss, it has to be in order, so no one knows that you didn't do it in order, right? So let's say you forgot to do Fatiha and you just went straight to the dua.
So that's another opinion. That they say that you can join from where the Imam joined, like where the Imam is, or what do you mean?
Like you start your meeting, you start,
Yeah.
and you say the first takbirat, and then you don't do Fatiha, you just go to do.
Intentionally would break your prayer.
No, obviously.
Intentionally, then that becomes your first takbir.
So you do, but you don't realize it until after like everything's done. You're like, man, I forgot to pray Fatiha.
It was sunnah, so the whole prayer was sunnah for you. If there are other people praying.
But did janazah count?
If other people prayed, yes. If it was only you, no one in the world prayed on that janazah except for you, then you repeat your janazah.
What if the body's gone and then later you realize that you didn't pray janazah?
Did other people pray?
Yeah, but you're the imam. No, that jama'ah is the only jama'ah that prayed on that person.
So there were other people who prayed with you in the jama'ah.
Yes.
So the obligation on praying janazah was fulfilled.
But you're the imam. You're the imam and you missed a pillar. So then that janazah doesn't count, right? Because you missed a pillar.
Yes. I would go and repeat it. If I was the imam, I would go and repeat just my janazah, so that I would fulfill the obligation.
Even the body's not there?
Yeah. It's okay if the body's not there.
Similar to how he did wudu and came back and prayed alone without telling everybody. After a while, he figured out that he forgot to,
Could you repeat that?
Wasn't there a hadith where Sayyidina Umar, he didn't have wudu, he led the salah?
That's for conditions, not for pillars.
So you pray for yourself?
Yeah.
You pray janazah again by yourself?
Yeah.
Is there a minimum number of people that you have to pray janazah?
I think there is, but nothing comes to mind. Even if it's like 2 people, that would be enough, inshallah.
But in your case, you're by yourself?
Even if it's 1 person, it's enough, inshallah. Yeah. Praying janazah. As for washing the body, if you need more than 1 person to wash the body and to put in the grave, that's you need more, as many as you need. Questions? Okay, what if like a relative of yours passed away and you couldn't pray janazah on their body because you weren't in that country, but later on you were able to visit their grave? Can you pray janazah on them?
Yes.
Yes, you can, right? So if it happens a lot of time, like people have relatives back home and they pass away and you don't get the chance to pray janazah on them at that moment. So whenever you visit, you can pray janazah. That's one of the exceptions we made for praying in the graveyard. We said praying in the graveyard your prayer is invalid. Any type of prayer is invalid in the graveyard except for Salat al-Janazah. Yeah. What if a Muslim passes away in a different country but there's no one who prays janazah on him? Can you pray over here? Yes, so it's called Salat al-Ghaib, right? When the body is not available, it's another country, then you can pray janazah on him. The Prophet ﷺ did that with An-Najashi. What was Najashi's name? Ashama, mashallah. Najashi is anyone who would lead, who was the king of Abyssinia. And his name was Ashama. The Prophet, he passed away, and the Prophet ﷺ prayed janazah on him in Medina, even though his body was in Abyssinia. Missing is a huge chapter. It's a big chapter. Depends on what kind of missing, where he was missed, how long. There's a lot of issues in missing. If the judge gives the order that he's considered to be passed away, then you pray janazah on him.
So,
So they mentioned the issue of people being burnt. People get burnt and you don't find except a few remains. You get them together, you put them in a cloth.
Same thing you prayed for.
Yes.
Are you Muslim?
Yes, he was Muslim. Yes, he was a Muslim. He gave the dowry of the Prophet ﷺ for his wife, I think Zainab. For Zainab, he gave the dowry for the Prophet ﷺ.
Pray janazah over a non-Muslim?
No.
What if
Oh, the
you're
Prophet.
not sure if they're Muslim or not, but
It depends on situation. If you could give me an example.
if you have a family member who's never said that they're not Muslim, but they don't see remotely.
But were they brought up in a Muslim family? Yes, so we consider them Muslim. So in Islam, we consider anyone who shows us that they're Muslim. Right? Questions?
So you said we can pray the janazah if the body's in a different country. So if you're in a different country than the person who's deceased, where would you pray that janazah? In the graveyard?
In the masjid. On his body?
Well, you're not in the country.
Yeah. Yes, so you pray in the masjid.
In the masjid.
Yes. You could pray at home as well if it's a
So there's no requirement to pray the
No.
janazah in the graveyard?
No, there's no requirement to pray in the masjid at all.
Can you pray janazah more than once on the same person?
I don't think so. You can make a lot of dua for them.
But that person can have different janazahs prayed on that person.
Yes, you can have different people pray on that janazah. Yes. But you can make dua for them, you can make hajj for them. So if you've made hajj before, it's a good act that like your great grandfathers or your grandmother who couldn't come for hajj, you should do hajj for them.
So let's say I'm making hajj for somebody with the intention of making it for the reward goes to the person. Do I get?
You get reward as well.
Does my obligation be lifted?
No. So you can't do your hajj unless you've done your obligation. You can't do hajj on someone else unless you've done it yourself.
Hajj has to be your hajj.
Yes.
Can you do Hajj for 2 or 3 other people?
No, only one person. You can give money to someone to do hajj on someone. So that if someone who's done hajj on himself and they want to go for hajj, you either take care of them, or if they want to do it voluntarily for you, on your relative on their behalf, that's okay. If you want to pay them, you can pay them.
So the reward of all your sins being erased, if you're doing a hajj for someone else, that counts for you?
I wouldn't count both. You would get rewarded, no doubt. But would you get the same reward? I don't think so. She would get, or he or she would, the deceased would get reward.
For the full, complete Hajj.
I don't know. I hope so.
If they never did Hajj in their lifetime, that the obligation for them to do that is done by someone.
No, so it's not obligated upon you, but you could do that.
So what if you die and you could do hajj, but you were lazy, you didn't do hajj and you died?
Yeah, you get sinned.
You get sinned, right? But what if your son comes after you did hajj for you? Does that lift your obligation and your sin is forgiven?
No, you get rewarded, but you will get sinned for that.
What is your obligation? My question for that is the hajj, if this person getting rewarded as if it's their hajj, is the obligation also not there anymore?
Yeah, inshallah. His obligation will be lifted, inshallah. Yeah. But many people from our grandparents didn't even know that. They couldn't even go for hajj.
Yeah.
Like many times they couldn't even go for hajj.
I'm just thinking of someone who just was
Yeah.
blind, not absent-minded.
Yeah, true. Right.
The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't pray janazah of Abu Talib?
No. The Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا. Do not pray on there. You can't even ask for forgiveness.
Second, you cannot put janazah on one person. Was there a hadith where Rasulullah said, if I could, I would have prayed janazah 40 times, Allah would have forgiven me?
No, that was for Abu Talib. That where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him 70 times, I will not forgive him. Right? That was for a disbeliever who had disease, not for janazah. So the Prophet, I'll repeat the story. So when Abu Talib passed away, the Prophet ﷺ asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that even if you ask me to forgive him 70 times, I will not forgive him. So the Prophet ﷺ, out of love for Abu Talib, said, even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me that He would forgive him if I asked Him over 70 times, I would have done that. Was that clear?
Before the hypocrite, Rasulullah put his saliva.
So hypocrites, the Prophet ﷺ dealt with them as if they were Muslims.
No, but for the eating, then wasn't there the Rasulullah said, I would have
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
What about praying over someone who was like unnecessarily buried in a way that's not Islamic, like they were intentionally cremated?
Yeah, so that was something was raised to me recently. Yeah, so you pray janazah on them. You pray janazah on them. Allahumma musta'an. Questions, janazah? We have one more slide left.
So is there a number of people that's required to pray the janazah, or can one person?
We said 2 people, even if one person does it, it's fine.
Do those 2 people both have to be male, or can one male and one female?
You said the obligation is not female.
It's not obligated, but if they do it, let's say we said it for adhan. Like a child, if a premature child, preteen, does give the adhan, he fulfills the obligation. I don't know. But I hope so. I hope so.
It's different from the Jummah, right?
Jummah is different. Jummah is different. But see, these are communal obligations. Jummah is not a communal obligation. So for communal obligation, it's more flexible. Yeah, there's more leeway. I don't know. Could you write that down? If one woman prays janazah, is that exempted? Any other questions, janazah? All right, moving on. We have we have one more slide. We have voluntary prayers as well. We have voluntary prayers and we have Eid. Yes, Salat Eid. So you have conditional voluntary prayers where there is a reason for that act of worship to become voluntary for you. So there are many examples. You have rawatib, or what they see is called sunnah mu'akkada, I think, right? They call them mu'akkada, right? They call them mu'akkada? Yes, they call them mu'akkada. So the rawatib are 2. Can anyone mention them in order? The 12 rakahs around the day. I think you like that question. 2? Yes, then? 2 after Dhuhr. 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr. Yes.
2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha.
2 after Isha. Nothing of anything.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr.
2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr.
2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, and 2 after Isha. The Hanbalis say that it's 2 before Dhuhr, not 4. But there's a difference of opinion there. Right? Clear? Then you have Salat al-Duha. Salat al-Duha, the Prophet ﷺ says that Salat al-Duha is the prayer of the pious. The people who are pious pray Duha. And another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says that every human being has a debt on himself every day. There's a debt towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day for every bone he has in his body. And just by praying Salat al-Duha, he fulfills that debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 2, the minimum is 2, maximum is 8. We'll come into that. We'll come to details now. Then you have Salat al-Witr. We'll come to the description of Salat al-Witr. Then you have entering the masjid, which is called Tahiyyatul Masjid. Then you have after wudu. It's a sunnah to pray after you've made wudu. The Prophet ﷺ in a dream heard Bilal's footsteps in Jannah. So he asked Bilal that, what do you do that made you reach that level in Jannah? He said, whenever I make wudu, I pray 2 rakahs. After tawaf, once you've performed tawaf Rizwan, you pray 2 rakahs. After praying Taraweeh is a sunnah, praying at night. We'll come to the details on that. Sujood for reciting an ayah of sajda. When a person recites an ayah of sajda, it's considered a prayer with the Hanbalis. It's considered a prayer with the Hanbalis. The Hanbalis consider that to be a kind of prayer. We'll come to the conditions for that, inshallah. Then you have unconditional prayers, unconditional voluntary prayers. If a person wants to stand up and pray any voluntary prayers, it's one of the one of the recommended acts in Islam to get up and just pray. If a person has free time, he should stand up and just pray 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever he wants to pray. There's no condition, there's no reason, there was no specific reason for him to get up. Just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he got up and he prayed. That's also a type of voluntary prayers, except for in the time of prohibitions. He should not pray in the time of prohibitions. Clear? We'll go into details now. Now we have the conditional voluntary prayers, right? The first is witr. The first is witr. When does the time of witr start? Until? Until Fajr. The time is from Isha till Fajr. So we mentioned in the second class, I think, that if a person combines his Maghrib and Isha in the earlier time, right? He prays Maghrib and Isha. He's traveling and he prays Maghrib and Isha as soon as the time of Maghrib starts. Let's say Maghrib starts at 8 p.m. He prays his Maghrib and Isha combined and shortened at Maghrib time. He is allowed to pray witr after that, right? He's allowed to pray witr after that. The minimum amount of rakahs a person can pray witr is 1 rakah, right? 1 rakah is the minimum amount of rakahs a person has to pray to fulfill the sunnah of witr. The maximum amount of rakahs is 11 rakahs. That's for witr, not for tarawih, for witr. A person can pray 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 with the intention of witr. If a person prays 3, he does 1 tashahhud at the end, meaning in the second rakah, he stands up, he does not sit. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't pray witr like Maghrib, right? So if a person prays 3 rakahs of witr and he wants to pray them all together, he should not sit in the second rakah of witr. If he prays 5 rakahs of witr, he can pray 5 rakahs of witr together, meaning in one prayer. Again, he only sits in the last rakah, meaning there's only 1 tashahhud. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray 5 rakahs in one prayer and he used to only sit in the 5th rakah. Similarly with the 7 rakahs. If a person prays 7 rakahs, he can pray all 7 with one tashahhud and 1 salam. Right? As for 9 and 11, the scholars say that he should either cut it down into 2 and 2, or he should make a tashahhud before the second last rakah. Repeat that. 10th and 11th, and if he's praying 9, he should do a tashahhud in the 8th and 9th.
So he shouldn't do all together 11?
No, he could if he wants to, but it's recommended to do it on 10th. It's always odd. Witr is always odd. Inna Allah witrun yuhibbul witr. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is odd in number, meaning He's one, and He likes witr. Yes, so and if you anything that's besides the last rakah of witr is called shafa. It's part of witr. You get that?
So if you're praying 11 rakahs.
So your 10 rakahs will be shafa and the last will be witr.
So the 1 is the witr.
Yes, but it's all called witr.
Yeah.
Or the one.
But when you're praying tarawih, that's not witr. Yeah. No, that's not even shafa. That's tarawih.
So if you're praying the 11, the 10 are not obligated for you to are not the 10. Sorry, the 10 are not. You don't need to do the 10 to make your obligation for it.
Not obligated, recommendation for it. Yeah. Yes, but it's recommended to do more.
So
the Prophet never did 1 rakah. He all did more than 1. He all did 3. He said that if a person wakes up before Fajr and he fears that he can't pray more than 1, then he should pray 1. Was that clear? Any questions about witr? Yeah.
When you said that we pray 9 or 11 rakahs, can you explain when you make the shahada?
So you keep on getting up after the second sajda on every rak'ah, except for the 10th or the 8th. You do it tashahhud over there.
So you do 1 tashahhud? What about for the last one?
Then you get up and you do the last tashahhud.
So you do 9, then you do a tashahhud at 8, and then a tashahhud at 9.
Yes. But in the first tashahhud, you don't do durood, you don't do Salah Ibrahimiyya. Yes.
Okay, on this tashahhud, I think I got confused again. If you're praying 9 rakahs, on the 8th one you do tashahhud, and then on the 9th one, so every time you do on the...
It's like your Maghrib.
So you do, okay, so you always finish it with 1 after that, unless it's at 3. Or 5. Or 5.
Or 7. You can even do all 9 together, and with 1 tashahhud.
It's recommended that you do the second tashahhud for 9 and 11.
Yes.
Okay.
Clear?
Have 1 left.
Yes. Clear? Anything about witr?
So you said that.
Sorry, one more. When you said if we decide to do the 9 or 11, then how much should we split it up by?
What do you mean?
I think you said earlier we can do 5 or 7, but the 9 or 11 we should split it up and not do all.
So I said the 1, 3, 5, 7 can be done with one tashahhud in the last rakah. Right? But as for 9 and 11, it's recommended to sit in the second last rakah. Oh yeah. Other questions with it?
Yeah, so a lot of them start to do 2 rakahs and then they stop and they do 1.
Yeah, so that's also a valid way. So even if you're doing 9, you do 2, 2, 2, 2 and 1 at the end, it's fine.
Is the Hanbali opinion that you do them all together?
They're both permissible ways. They're both permissible ways.
Specifically, I'm asking about
So they say it's better to cut it out, to do 2, 2, 2, 2 and then 9. Yes, so the Prophet ﷺ said, Salatul Layli mathna mathna, that it's 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. But sometimes people don't want to break their prayer, just want to keep on praying, right?
So I guess my question, there's 2 opinions, what's more recommended? Are we saying that the recommended is to do them all together?
I think the recommended is to do 2 and 2. That's more recommended. No, but I couldn't say that because the Prophet ﷺ did both. He did both. He did 2, 2. There wouldn't be more recommended. I would say it would be what's more convenient for the person.
Do those people who pray like witr and maghrib, do they have any like? Is it based on any opinion or just like?
Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ don't do witr like maghrib.
No, like those people who pray as maghrib, you tell them that
The hadith, there's a difference of opinion in the authenticity of the hadith.
Okay, that's only.
Yes.
So you cannot just.
So they say even if you do pray like maghrib, it's valid. It's valid. It's recommended, but it's not a condition or an obligation. And if the dua is made, it's made after the ruku, in the last rakah. If the person makes dua before the ruku, it's also valid. Do you get that? So if a person says Qul huwallahu ahad Allahu samad lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad, and he starts making dua al-witr, it's fine.
Can you make any dua or there's a specific dua?
So there is a recommended way. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt. That's a dua the Prophet ﷺ taught Al-Hasan, his grandchild, right? Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt. He would only read that one dua. If a person wants to make other duas, it's fine. The main thing is that you make sincere dua. Yes. Yes.
So the same way we do it?
Yes, the famous way.
And you said that it's okay to do it before you go to
Yes.
So is there one recommended over the other or both?
No, so they say it's recommended to do it after the ruku.
And then you raise your hands?
Yes, so they say you raise your hands towards your chest and you're as if you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you something.
So you don't look up?
No, you look down.
Wait, but you said you could look anywhere during Salah.
Yeah, but it's recommended to look down because you're asking Allah. So if you look straight, it's fine. Clear? Questions?
Making any sort of dua an obligatory requirement for one day?
No.
You don't have to do any dua?
Yeah, you could just not do dua. Yeah.
And your witr is still...
Yeah, it's still valid. That's what I said. Witr, making dua and witr is not an obligation or a condition or a pillar. Was that clear? Any other questions for witr?
Some people like do this.
Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he would make dua when he would get really emotional and he could see the whiteness of his armpits. Yeah, that's okay. Questions? I'll give a few tips on du'as in general. The 3 main tips I always give. First is always start off your dua with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's see you are looking for a job and you raise your hands. You just don't go say, oh Allah, give me a job. You start praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using multiple names and then you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the way if you would not go up to a person you wouldn't directly ask a person for something, you would start off with something, you would praise them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is much more deserving of our praise. So it's recommended that you start off praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then you ask for whatever you need. Secondly is that you repeat whatever you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you don't only ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once, you ask Him at least 3 times. They say the sunnah is at least 3 times you repeat your dua. Thirdly is that you end your dua with salam on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ends his dua with giving salams to me, then inshallah his dua will be answered. Just saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Or sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Right? Any other questions? Any questions regarding dua? Questions regarding dua?
When you say sufficient send salams to the Prophet and our Lord, should we also say it after sending prayers to Allah as well?
I think most people end it with sending salams, but it's okay to do it anyway. Questions? Witr? Good, move on. Bismillah. Now you have Salatul Duha. The first thing is the time. The time starts from when the sun has risen to the height of his spirit till Dhuhr. The time of Salatul Duha is from when the time of prohibition ends until Salat Dhuhr. Right? Is that clear? The minimum amount of rakahs to fulfill the sunnah of Duha is 2 rakahs. And the maximum is 8 rakahs. Right? He can pray other unconditional voluntary prayers, but to have the intention of Duha, the Prophet ﷺ didn't pray more than 8 rakahs for Duha. Was that clear? Any questions for Salatul Duha?
Is there a general amount of time you could tell us to wait until after the
Sunrise?
Yeah.
15 minutes. They say 15 minutes. So when you look it up and it says like sun rises on 6:30, for example, you wait until 6:45 and then you pray.
And that 15 minutes is basically the time it takes for the sun to rise to higher spirit.
Yes. Good question.
Can these one-way conditional prayers, can their niyas be combined with other?
Yes. So let's say you enter the masjid after the sun has risen to the height of his spirit, and you intend both Salatul Duha and Tahiyatul Masjid, you'll get rewarded for both. Inshallah.
Do you pray all 8 at once? Like if we did it with
No.
2.
You can do 2 or 4. 2 is preferred. 2 salam. 4, yeah. You can pray it either like Dhuhr or like Fajr.
Is witr the only sunnah that you can do?
Yes. You have Salat al-Kusuf, but that's very detailed. We'll come to that later on, inshallah.
When you're doing the sunnah for Dhuhr, before Salat Dhuhr,
Yes.
pray 4 together?
You can pray, but they say there's a hadith that says Salatul Layli mathna, right? That's authentic hadith. That the prayer of night is 2 and 2. But there's a weak hadith that says even that Salatul Nahari mathna. That the prayer of the day is also 2 and 2. Right? So some scholars use that weak hadith and say that so weak hadith does not mean fabricated, right? Weak hadith means that the narration is weak. Fabricated is when you have someone who is a liar in the chain of narration. Weak hadith is when you have someone whose memorization wasn't that strong, right? So there's that hadith is considered weak but not fabricated. We'll do a course on Mustalah once, inshallah. The sajda for reciting. So when we have I think 14 or 15 ayah of sajdas in the Quran. Is it 15 or 17? Anyone knows? How many ayahs of sajda in the Quran? I think it's either 17 or 15. I'm not sure. But there's a difference of opinion on a few ayat, like the ayah of Surah As-Sad, the second ayah in Surah Al-Hajj. There's a difference of opinion. But anyways, if the sajda of reciting if you come across that ayah, how do you do sajda, and who should do sajda? Like, is anyone who listens to the ayah, or there's specific people? We'll come to this now. Description: you do takbir, then you do sujood, and then you salam. So let's say you were sitting and someone reads the ayah of sajda. He says Allahu Akbar, and he goes into sujood, and then he gets up. Then he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Right? If he's sitting down, he doesn't have to stand up. Even he can do the takbir while he is sitting down, right? So let's say he's sitting down and he reads the last ayah of Surah Al-Alaq, right? And so he says Allahu Akbar, he goes into sujood, he comes back up, one sajda, and he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Is that clear?
You used to say the same thing you say in sujood during Salah?
Yes. Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil A'la.
And do you raise your hand?
Yes.
Do you have to start from standing, or if you were sitting?
Yes, you could do it while you're sitting.
You said then you do your salams.
Yes. Both, yeah. Yes.
Is that I've never done that and I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a sunnah. Yeah, so even if you don't do it, it's fine. But this is the right way to do it.
This is the one that is not in Salah, right?
No, so in Salah you can't do salams.
When you recite the Quran.
Yeah, if you're outside of Salah. It's recommended. So if a person doesn't do it, he's not sinned, but it's strongly recommended to do it.
When in Salah, when this comes up, do you say takbir, do you raise your hand too?
Yes. You raise your hands?
Go to sujood.
I don't know. No, so he's saying raising your hands in Salah.
Yeah, so if you read Salah, such that comes.
Yes.
You say Allah.
No, you don't raise your hands in there. No.
You should go straight to sujood.
Yes.
But when you come back up,
You say Allahu Akbar.
do you raise your hands when you come back up?
No. You never raise your hands standing up except for ruku'.
Yeah, I thought after
At Tahiyyat we said humbly say no. But some say yes.
So wait, sorry. How many say during Salah you never raise your hands after coming up in sujood?
Except for ruku'. And sujood, no.
Not even the second. Not even during after the tashahhud.
So after your first tashahhud, and we differentiate between first and last tashahhud, right? Yeah, and you stand up. So there are two opinions.
Okay.
Some say you raise your hands, and some say no.
How many say
Humbly say no.
across the board?
No, there is a different. Yes. Not a minority, the good opinion that says, I go with that opinion because there's an explicit hadith in Bukhari that says that the Prophet ﷺ did do it.
But for this, for this
No. That's from after the tashahhud, not after sajda.
Right.
What is the reason for making that a sunnah? Either by reading, if a person reads the ayah of sajda, he should make sajda, or he listens to it. Now there's a difference even in English between listening and hearing, right? And there's a difference in Arabic between istima' and sami'a. Even Arabs make the difference. Listening is when you're focused on what the person is saying and you're listening to his recitation and then he goes across. But let's say you're walking by and someone says the ayah of sajda. Then it's not a sunnah for you to do sajda. But if someone's sitting and listening to a recording or a person reciting, then if he recites the ayah of sajda, then it's a sunnah for you to do sajda. But if a person is walking by and he just walks by a recitation or reciter, then it's not a sunnah for him.
If he walks by and he hears that it's happening, he's not like attentively. Is it still sunnah? Does it still get a word?
He could do it. But for him, it's much highly recommended because some scholars also go to the opinion that's obligated for you to do sajda. Right? So, I don't know. They say it's obligated, right? And if it's obligated, then it would only be obligated in the person who's focusedly and attentively listening and who read.
What if you're memorizing it and you have to read it over and over again?
So once you've done, do one sajda.
Just one sajda?
Yeah, inshallah.
So this is a two-part question. When you're saying when you're reciting, does it have to do with a mushaf?
Anything.
Okay. So when you're reciting, let's say you're just reading from your memory.
Still.
And you don't have wudu. Do you do such?
So then the humbly say you need wudu.
So you have to go back wudu and come back and do sajda?
You don't have to, but it's recommended. It's recommended to do any act of worship with wudu. So a person should have wudu. Well, when he's doing dhikr, when he's doing dua, when he's reading Quran, a person should have wudu.
But can he do this sujood without wudu?
You could choose the other opinion and say that it's not mandatory, but you could do that.
One of the opinions you have to have.
Yeah, I have to have wudu. They consider it as a prayer. That's why they recommend salam and takbir before. Get it? Any questions for sajda for reciting?
Could you wait and do it? Like I read that,
Yeah, you could wait.
Wait, how long can you wait?
Not too long.
Long to wait.
Let's say you're reading and it's not.
Finish the ruku.
Yeah, not ruku, but like you're finished the page or something. It's like your last page. You just want to finish, do sajda and leave. That's fine. Moving on. Bismillah. Taraweeh. Taraweeh is what is called when you pray at night in Ramadan, right? When you pray in the nights of Ramadan, that is called Taraweeh. Then you have Qiyamul Layl and Tahajjud. Qiyamul Layl is when you pray any time at night, whether it be in Ramadan or after Ramadan. Anytime when you pray at night, it's called Qiyamul Layl. As for Tahajjud, it's the prayer when you pray after you've slept for a portion of the night. So if you slept after Isha and then you wake up, that prayer is called Tahajjud. They all have similar rulings, but they just have different names. They're all called Qiyamul Layl. Tahajjud is when you do it after you wake up. Taraweeh is when you do it in Ramadan. Is it clear? A time for Taraweeh. When does the sunnah of the time of Taraweeh kick in? It's after Isha in Ramadan. Any time after Isha in Ramadan until Fajr. Right? The second is the number of rakahs. How many rakahs should a person pray Taraweeh? 20 with witr. Hanbalis go with the opinion 20 with witr. Right? Ibn Taymiyyah has a very beautiful opinion. He says that if a person has the ability to do long rukus and long sujoods and long recitations, then he should only do 8 or he should only do 11 or 13. But if a person doesn't have the ability to do long rukus and long sujoods, then he should make up for that by doing more rakahs. Right?
The other opinion is 8, right?
Is 11 or 13. So you say 8 with witr, 8 plus witr, or 9 plus witr. Or 10 plus witr, sorry?
You know who about takes the 8 plus witr?
I don't know. I know Malikis do 36. They go with the opinion of 36. And Hanafis are 23, I think, yeah. Right? And I think Shafi'is are with the 13 or 11. But that's also another opinion within the Hanbali school of madhab. Thought that they also go with the 13 or 11.
Do you have to do with your jama'ah?
No. So this is an issue. Should Taraweeh be done in Jama'ah or not? The majority schools of thought go with the opinion, yes, it should be done in Jama'ah. But there is an opinion which has a very strong proof that if a person is able to be conscious and is able to have khushu' in his prayer while he prays at home, because some people are hufad, right? They memorize the Quran and they find it much more, they have much more khushu' when they are reciting the Quran and when they're there by themselves in their room, they're just closed, isolated. For them we would say yes, you should pray at home, and it's much more recommended. Because the Prophet ﷺ used to pray at home.
Can you pray Tarawih with the Quran?
Yes.
So, from what I know, I'm not sure if this is all 100% right, but Tarawih isn't something that we saw the Prophet do, but it was mandated by Allah.
Yes.
So, how did we come up with the ruling?
Okay, so we did this in our usul class. We said that the legislations of the 4 khulafa is considered from the legislations of the Prophet ﷺ, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnat al-khulafa ar-rashidin," that you should follow my sunnah and the sunnah of my khulafa who come after me. So whatever they have prescribed, there are many things that they had done. For example, they had increased the punishment for drinking alcohol, and the Sahaba, everyone agreed. They compiled the Quran. All of these things didn't happen at the time of Prophet ﷺ, and even though Sahaba completely agreed because they knew of this hadith that whatever the 4 khulafa legislated, it would be considered as the legislation of the Prophet ﷺ. Only 4. No. Only 4. So if a person prays 11, he would fulfill the sunnah of Taraweeh. The Prophet ﷺ never prayed more than 13, but his rukus and sujood were very long. Like sometimes he would pray 13 or 11, and that would take up all up of his night, right? All night he would just be praying 11 rakahs. So if a person can do long rukus and sujood, then he should pray 11 or 13. But if a person can't do that, then he should aim for 20, 23, because it's the month of Ramadan, and a person should worship in the month of Ramadan. Questions? No questions about Taraweeh, Witr, Sajda? Nothing? We have one more slide left for Salat al-Eid. Right, we finished with Eid, right? Eclipse prayer, I didn't put it in because I thought it would get too complicated. So the eclipse prayer has a specific way to pray, and it only happens when you have a lunar or a solar eclipse. You do 2 rukus and you do a 2 rakah prayer, and you do 2 rukus in that. So I'll do a brief explanation of that. So you say Allahu Akbar, you read Fatiha, you read another surah, then you go into ruku. Then you get up and you read Fatiha again, and you read another surah again, and then you do ruku, and then you get up, and then you go into sujood. Right? You do 2 rakahs like that. That's how Salat al-Kusuf and Khusuf is. Kusuf is when the sun is, and Khusuf is when the moon eclipses. Right?
So overall,
4 rukus in 2 rakahs. Yes, 4 rukus in 2 rakahs. Is that clear? It's sunnah. It's sunnah. It was that we Muslims considered an eclipse to be a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's warning us. And we turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that situation and ask for forgiveness. A person should ask a lot of forgiveness in those 2 rakahs. Also, you have the prayer of raining. Yeah, when a person when people when it's not rained for a long time and people have suffered, then it's a sunnah to go out and pray 2 rakahs and make a lot of istighfar, and there should be a khutbah after that, and it's just 2 rakahs and yes, it's considered to be done in an open area, just like Salat al-Eid.
Are we going to go over the other sunnahs?
No, the only things left is Eid. What else you have in mind?
We have entry in the masjid after wudu, after dua.
Well, those are just 2 rakahs.
Just regular 2?
Yeah, just regular 2 rakahs. If you have any specific questions, let me know. Sure. Salat al-Hajjah is, so dua is, so Salat al-Hajjah, there's a difference of opinion whether it's recommended or not. So there is a valid opinion that it says it's okay when a person has a desperate need for something, he can pray 2 rakahs and then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to solve his problem.
And conditional prayers is just regular 2 rakahs?
2, 4.
But it's regular, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says sajda shukr. It's no salat al-shukr. Sajda shukr. Yes.
Can you make sujood just like that? Make dua.
Yes, you could. You could. Some say you could. Yeah.
Is there salam after?
No. Salam is only when there's a prayer. So sujood shukr, there's no salam.
How about
Salat al-istikhara is you pray 2 rakahs.
Do you have to pray 2 rakahs?
No, you don't. You can just sit down. But it's recommended to pray 2 rakahs.
And the dua, is it, you have to read that dua, or can you?
It's better. It's better.
If you just want to ask Allah.
If you want to do the act of istikhara, how the Prophet ﷺ did it, then you have to do the dua. Yeah, but if you just want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you can.
Do you get the same thing?
No, that's more effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
do you do it inside the salah or do you do it
After you've prayed.
And how many times do you do it for the same thing?
They said you shouldn't do it more than once.
You should.
Yeah.
The same time.
I heard you should do it if you want to do it alone.
There's a difference of opinion, but from what I remember, it's like you shouldn't do it more than once. You've asked Allah once. You should make dua after that. You should make a lot of dua after that. Yes.
So, my question is in terms of like when we pray Salat al-Istikhara and we're faced with decisions.
Yes.
How soon upon praying Salat al-Istikhara should one act upon a decision? Like, does it matter how delayed the decision or the action needs to be made, or does it matter, or do we know anything about that?
I think from what I remember is that he should do his istikhara, and then they should wait for a normal amount of time, like whatever is required. He shouldn't be hasty, nor should he delay it. He should go as if it was a normal thing, and then hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show him the way.
Can you do it before or after shura?
You can do it anytime. You can do shura before or after. Right?
There's no like green light.
No green light. No green light.
Is it Salat al-Tasbih authentic or?
No, the hadith is very, very weak. Very, very weak. Majority of schools of thought don't go with it. Salat tasbih. Your mom asked me. Questions?
Would it be wrong to pray Salat tasbih?
No. But Imam Ahmad strongly disliked it. He said there's no authentic hadith in this. Moving on. Salat al-Eid. Bismillah. finish with Eid, inshallah. The Eid prayer. The conditions for Eid prayer to be valid. You have to be a resident for Salat al-Eid to be for you to be from the communal obligation. So Salat al-Eid is a communal obligation, right? Salat al-Eid is a communal obligation. So for the people whom the communal obligation is obligated upon are the residents. Yarhamukallah. Are the residents, meaning if a person is traveling, he's not considered from the people who are obligated to pray Salat al-Eid. The beginning of its time. When does the time of Salat al-Eid begin? Yes. When was that?
Spear.
When the sun has risen to the height of a spear. I have written to the height of a spear till Dhuhr. Till Dhuhr, a person can pray till Dhuhr. The condition, same condition, it has to have 40 people. Yes, so when time of Dhuhr comes in, the time of Eid is finished. You need 40 people. These are three conditions for Salat al-Eid. You need the person has to be a resident, and the beginning of the time, and 40 people. Was that clear? Well, conditions. We'll take the rest of the questions at the end. Okay. So the time of Fajr begins with the break of dawn. What is the break of dawn? When the glow of the sun starts to appear. Not the shape of the sun, when the glow of the sun starts to appear. So that's when the time of Fajr begins, right? And the time of Fajr ends as soon as the shape of the sun starts to appear. Not the complete shape, as soon as part of that shape starts to appear, that's when the time of Fajr ends. And that's when the prohibited time starts. Until the sun has risen, the complete shape has risen. Then from that time until it's risen to the height of a spear. That's a prohibited time to pray unconditional voluntary prayers. Was that clear?
Is it your shadow or the sun itself?
The sun itself.
What's a spear?
That's how they would measure. Spear.
How would you? Yeah,
No, that's how they would measure back in the day. They had a specific. So now they say it's 15 minutes. Yes, so when the shape has completely appeared, you wait 15 minutes, and then the time of prohibition is over, and the time of Jummah starts, the time of Duha starts, the time of Eid starts.
So 15 minutes after.
After sunrise.
So the two times are together.
Yes, we
The
talked about.
rising and the 15 minutes after. They're both.
No, we said after Fajr until sunrise, then from sunrise till the sun has risen to the height of a spear.
Yeah.
Right? So that's from sunrise till it's risen to the height of a spear is one prohibited time. It's the intensified time. Questions about this conditions?
Yeah, so 40 people. You said when it's Fard Kifaya that it's more lax than like for Jummah. So would we have more? Okay. Is there any male or female?
No, it has to be male.
It has to be male.
Yeah. For it to be obligated. It's a sunnah for everyone. There's also an opinion that says it's also fard upon women to come. Yes, there's another opinion with the Hanbalis, and that's Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion, that he says everyone is obligated. And I incline towards that because the hadith is very strict, that everyone should come for.
So can it be 40 men, women, children together?
So I think it's like Jummah when you need 40 men for it to be valid.
But if it's obligated?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But usually have more than 40 people, right?
Yeah, just hypothetically.
Yeah. Write it down. Write it down.
Do we know the significance of 40?
So some people have derived these ayat and ahadith, but the most authentic is that the Prophet ﷺ just said, he didn't say, the Sahaba said that no Jummah for people less than 40 people. It was just a saying. So when the Sahabi says it's from the Sunnah, we consider that from the Hadith. If he didn't say that, then we would consider it to be his opinion. So the formats of Hadith are multiple ways. So either you say that the Sahabi says, I heard the Prophet ﷺ, or the Prophet ﷺ ordered me to do this, or I saw the Prophet ﷺ do this, or he says it's from the Sunnah to do this. So these are considered to be formats of a Hadith. What is considered to be a Hadith? Yes. Yes, but it's kind of weak. It's not that authentic.
Are those 4 types considered to be equally as strong?
No. So they say when you hear when the Sahabi heard the Prophet ﷺ say something, that's the strongest level.
When Jumu'ah, or when Eid falls on Jumu'ah, is Jumu'ah?
We'll do it at the end, inshallah. Recommended acts to do on the day of Eid. Eating before Fitr and after Adha. So in Salat al-Eid, it's a sunnah to eat something sweet before you go out for Salat al-Eid on the Eid of Ramadan, which is Eid al-Fitr. And for Adha, it's a sunnah for the person to slaughter his animal after. It's an obligation to slaughter after Salat al-Eid and to eat from that. And that should be the first thing he eats on that day. The meat of what he slaughtered. No, that's sunnah. The obligation is to do it after salah. So if a person slaughters before Salat al-Eid, it's invalid. He has to do it again.
And then you say
Slaughtering is an obligation.
Yeah. Slaughtering before is an obligation.
After.
Sorry, after.
Yes.
And then you said eating before Fitr, you said something sweet?
Yes, it's sunnah to eat something sweet before Fajr.
Do you know what the Prophet said?
Dates.
For the Adha, you said after eating you fast.
Adha, there's no fasting.
No, I meant before the prayer. If someone told me you're not supposed to eat or drink right before Salat al-Eid.
For Adha, yes. So we said for Salat al-Adha, the first thing a person should eat is the meat of his slaughter. And when should he slaughter? After Salat al-Eid.
It wasn't sunnah. He ate from what he slaughtered?
Prophet ﷺ? Yeah.
That was
Yeah. He in his Hajj, he slaughtered 100 camels. And then he took meat from all of them and he distributed for the poor. And he took meat from all of those and he put it in one bowl or something, and he made a soup out of that, and he drank that soup. So it was as if he ate from all of those 100 camels. Any questions about this? About eating. Second sunnah is preparing. Just the way you prepare for Jum'ah, you take you put on your good clothes, you clip your nails, you trim your mustache, you freshen up, all that stuff. You put perfume, cologne, put on the best of your clothes. This is all a sunnah to go on Salat al-Eid. What is haram to do on Salat al-Eid, on the day of Eid? Fast. Fasting is something by consensus haram to do on Salat. So if a person fasts for the sake of Allah on the day of Eid, he is sinned. He is considered to be a sinner. In an open area. So it's a sunnah to go out in an open area and to pray in an open area. The Prophet ﷺ had a specific place in Medina where he would go and pray Eid and Istisqa, and he would do kusuf and khusuf over there. But as for Jummah, it's in the masjid. As for Eid, it's in an open area where people can come and join. Questions for that?
Is it just haram to fast on the first day?
Yes. Questions for this?
So you can start fasting on the second day?
Yeah. Going early, it's a sunnah to go early to the masjid, and it's a sunnah while you're going that you do the takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. You say these takbirs when you're going to the masjid. You should do it as soon as, so the sunnah of doing the takbir starts as soon as Eid starts. When does Eid start? By Maghrib time, right? As soon as the day of Eid starts in, you start saying the takbir, right? And for Eid al-Fitr, you only do it for one day, from Maghrib to Maghrib, right? And it's highly recommended to do it when you're going for Salat al-Eid. When you're on your way to Salat al-Eid, you say this takbir. As for Eid al-Adha, you do it for 3 days. The 10th, 11th, and the 12th, right? And the 13th, yes, and the 13th. You do it for 4 days, on Eid and the 3 days of Tashriq, which is the 11th, 12th, and 13th, and the day of Eid is the 10th day. So you do it for 4 days approximately, and it's highly recommended to do it after each prayer. For the takbirat for Eid al-Adha, it is highly recommended to do it after the salawat. So you'll find after people pray, they would do the takbir at least 3 times. Get it? Should I repeat that? Okay, it's a sunnah. So you have the takbir, which is Allahu Akbar, which you mentioned. It's a sunnah on Eid al-Fitr for 1 day, from Maghrib to Maghrib. Do you get it?
From Maghrib the night before Eid.
Yes, till the Maghrib on. When let's say the Eid, the month was 29 days, and the Eid was a day after. So as soon as the Maghrib for 29th day, we've prayed the Maghrib, the time the sun sets, Eid has started, right? So you start saying the takbir from that time until the Maghrib of the following day. And it's highly recommended that you say it when you're going for Salatul Eid. When you're heading out for Salatul Eid, you say the takbir. As for Eid al-Adha, it's for 4 days. It's on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Right? Eid al-Adha comes on what day? The 10th of Dhul Hijjah. And Eid al-Fitr is on the 1st of Shawwal. Right? So on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, so when on the 9th day, when you've prayed Maghrib on the 9th day, the time of takbir starts. Right? So you also do, it's recommended to do it all 4 days. It's highly recommended on 2 times for Eid al-Adha. On the way for Salatul Eid and after every prayer. Was that clear? Should I repeat again or not?
For the Fitr, you just say it going to the masjid.
You should do it all day, but it's highly recommended on when you're going to the masjid.
But not after. You do it after prayer.
You could do it after prayers, but it's not specifically highly recommended for that. For Eid al-Adha, yes, do it after prayers. Any questions about the takbir?
For Eid al-Adha, you said on the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th of Hijjah, do the takbir.
Yes.
And that's after every prayer.
Yes.
3 times.
I said you'd find people do it 3 times. You should do it 1 time is enough, but the more you do it, the more better. 3 times is a pretty good number. Any questions? What takbir? Right. Reading Surah Al-A'la and Surah Al-Ghashiyah. Salat al-Eid is 2 rakahs, right? And so you read Surah Al-A'la, Sabbih isma rabbika al-A'la in the first rakah, and Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Hal ataka hadith al-Ghashiyah in the second rakah. It's a sunnah to read those 2 surahs. The 2 khutbahs after Salat al-Eid. The khutbahs in Eid are after Salat al-Eid, and it's a sunnah to sit for that. It's a sunnah to perform that, meaning a person does not sit in that, his Salat al-Eid is valid. If the khatib does not do khutbahs after Salat al-Eid, it's also valid, but it's highly recommended to sit for the khutbah and to give the khutbah in general. Any questions about the khutbah?
Salah is
Valid.
no, the salah for Eid, that's a pillar?
Communal obligation.
But you have to have that to meet the communal obligation. Like you don't have to have the khutbahs to meet the condition of that.
No. Yes, good point. So if people do Salat al-Eid and they don't do no khutbah, they fulfill the communal obligation.
But if you leave the salah, they don't meet the communal obligation.
Could you repeat that?
So if people meet together and they only have the khutbah and then you don't do the salah.
Yeah, it's invalid.
Okay. And they don't meet that.
Yes, they don't fulfill the communal obligation. Then you have the extra takbirat, 6 in the first rak'ah and 5 in the second rak'ah. There are 6 takbirat in the first rak'ah and 5 in the second rak'ah. This is beside the takbirat al-ihram and besides the takbir from going from the sajda to the second rak'ah. Was that clear? No. Okay. So the first rak'ah when the imam says Allahu Akbar, right, it's a sunnah to do 6 more takbir after that takbir. Do you get that? So counting the takbirat al-ihram would be how many takbirs? 7. Besides that it would be 6, right? It's a sunnah to do 6 takbirat after takbirat al-ihram. Now you have your second rak'ah. You're in your second sajda in your first rak'ah and you're getting up. What do you say? Allahu Akbar. That's a takbir. Besides that takbir, you do 5 takbirs. So you're getting up from sujood, you say Allahu Akbar. Then you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You raise your hands every time. Allahu Akbar 5 times.
You raise your hands?
Yes.
Is it how many?
So the Hanbali say every time there's a takbir, you raise your hands if you're standing up.
Regardless of the salah?
Yeah, regardless of the salah. They say the Prophet, they use the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ used to raise his hands whenever he used to say Allahu Akbar.
Except for when you come out of sujood.
Yes. Whenever you're standing up, you say you raise your hands.
You say something Allahu.
Yeah.
So a total of 7 takbirat on the first one, and then a total of 6 on the second.
Yes, you could say that. You could say that. And this is before you read Fatiha and before you read the other surah.
What do you say in between?
Some scholars say you say Allahu Akbar, the takbir that you say outside on the days of Eid. You could say that between the takbirat. Do you get it?
Oh, yeah.
But usually the imam doesn't give you much time. Yeah.
So the only time is extra is in the beginning of each rak'ah?
Yes. The 2 rakahs in the beginning of each rakah.
Otherwise, the salah is the same?
Yes, besides the salah is completely the same. Yeah, one more?
Sorry, so let's say we start eating salah. The first takbirat is takbirat ihram. And
Yes.
after that, you do sana?
No, you do sana after the 6 takbirats.
Okay. So nothing between the
No.
takbirat ihram
No.
and the
No. Questions about this? We have one more sunnah, taking 2 paths, meaning that you go to the masjid, you take a different route coming back from the masjid that you took going to the masjid. It's a sunnah that the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Question about the 2 paths?
Can you explain what you do with Sana and Fatiha?
So Salat al-Eid, we said, you say Allahu Akbar, then you do your 6 takbirs, and then you do your sana, and then you do your Fatiha.
And then, so is there 8 takbirs to go into ruku?
Yes, if you count the ruku, it would go into the 8. Questions about Salat al-Eid?
Is there?
Besides the Jummah question, we'll come to that.
When one arrives late or they miss the first rak'ah,
Yes.
I mean, they just continue as is, or
And they make up 1 rak'ah more. With the takbirat. It's a sunnah.
The second rak'ah, the first rak'ah.
So it's that's a huge difference of opinion. You could go with any. Any would be fine. Do 5 and you're good, inshallah.
Is there anything else that is there any other pillars to Salat al-Eid? Like we didn't mention.
So I'll give you the minimum mandatory, right? So a person, let's say a jama'ah of 40 people come and they pray 2 rakahs, like any other 2 rakahs, without the extra takbir, and they leave, they fulfill the communal obligation. Nothing else.
But in that 2 rakahs, we take the pillars that are regular.
Yes. Yeah. That's for any 2 rakah.
So residents, the time 40 per people and then 2 rakahs.
Okay, the issue of Jummah, right? What if Eid comes on the day of Jummah? The Hanbali school of thought and other schools of thought go with the opinion that if a person prays Eid, then he doesn't have to pray Jummah, right? He doesn't have to pray Jummah. Now the issue comes, does he have to pray Dhuhr? Yes. So the Hanbali schools go, no, he doesn't have to pray Dhuhr. It's a sunnah for him to pray Dhuhr, but he doesn't have to pray Dhuhr. So when we say that the person who prays Eid doesn't pray Jummah, why do we say that? Because that Eid has fulfilled the obligation of Jummah. Do you get that? So therefore he doesn't have to pray Dhuhr.
Even if it's not on a Friday?
Even if it's on a Friday.
That's what I'm
So the Eid only takes the obligation of Jummah, not for Dhuhr.
Okay.
And on that day you're obligated to pray Jummah, not yeah.
Is that because somebody does not believe that it's a replacement?
Yes, and also because their times coincide. You get that?
Do it with the intention that it'll also count for Jummah?
No, you don't have to do that.
Okay, so I was listening to talk about this from Shaykh Salah.
Yes, what do you say?
And he was talking about that you have to, the masjid and the imam has to have the Jummah prayer.
Yes, they should.
For anyone who wants to, or anyone.
Yeah, it's a sunnah so they say it's a sunnah to go for Jummah after that. They say it's a sunnah to go for Jummah. It's not like as if he's repeating the Jummah. So if a person prays Jummah on a Friday, on a general Friday, we tell him, no, you can't go and pray another Friday, Jummah, right? And in this scenario, we say, yes, it's a sunnah for him to go and pray another Jummah. To pray the Jummah. Sure.
the person has the intention to bypass Eid Salah and just pray Jummah if it's on a Friday.
I didn't get that.
So, in this case, if Eid falls on Friday,
Yes.
can a person have the intention to bypass Salatul Eid and instead pray Salatul
No,
Jummah?
Salat al-Eid is much more recommended in this scenario. Any other questions? We're done. Alhamdulillah.
So,
You guys, did anyone miss out on any slides? Yes.
Not for this class.
Which one?
The very first.
First slide? Those are long slides.
Can you write the first one of this today's?
The first one? Okay. You want the first one as well, right? You want the first one as well? Okay. You missed the first one only? You came for the second class? You also missed the first class? Yeah. I keep forgetting. Astaghfirullah, my bad. Okay. I'll have to email it to you guys. Inshallah. But these are just prototypes for now. They will be changed and modified. For the next class, they will be much more improved.
Oh, so this is the Salah for the travel.
Yes. You done?
This is where you spoke out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Doesn't intend to do this.
Yeah. Stay is better. I was in a hurry last night. Doesn't intend to stay more than 4 days. Any questions in general?
Can you go to the slide that has the...
Let her finish. Which one?
The slide that has voluntary and specific and non-specific.
The 4 before Asr and the 4 before Ashraf. Is it also sunnah to only read those occasionally?
No, so sunnah is for any prayer. You said sunnah, right?
The
Sunnah. Okay, sunnah is after Maghrib and after Isha.
But the 4 away, sunnah, 4 rak'ah before Asr and the 4 rak'ah before.
No, that's 4 before Dhuhr and 2 after Dhuhr.
I think the Desi thing.
So the Desi pray before Asr?
4 rak'ah.
Before Asr?
Yeah, and it said that the Prophet would do it on.
I think the Prophet ﷺ did it on one occasion because he forgot to pray the Dhuhr one. That's what he said. So I don't know what the Hanafi position is for. The Desis are usually Hanafis. I don't know. Sure. You done with this one?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I have a question regarding.
Yeah. Everyone done Jummah? This one?
Yeah. Do you have nothing under unconditional?
You could put anything. It's unconditional. Anything. Yeah. So they say usually mention Taraweeh in this because it's unconditional, but so some say it's conditional. It's not a big issue. Sure.